we do this program which is called CalAAnand. This is for all Kala volunteers, where we want to have opportunity to share our liking, the tastes and things that relate. But more importantly, with people like Niranjan, who are great actors, writers, directors, they come here. We have an opportunity to talk to them. We have some workshops, etc. So this is what we do in CalAAnand. This is all for volunteers, run by volunteers. In fact, we have Anjali Squared, Anjali Pide and Anjali Kirloskar running today's show. Thanks and enjoy the show and join so that we can have more of such programs. So with this, I want to hand it to Anjali to introduce Niranjan properly, and I'll get the show started.
Thank you very much. सो कलानंदाच्या ह्या सत्रात या भागात मी तुमचं स्वागत करते आणि आता थोडक्यात ओळख करून देण्याचा मी प्रयत्न करते. ओळख खूप मोठी आहे. सो लेट मी पुट माय ग्लासेस ऑन. So as we all know, Niranjan is an excellent playwright, director, actor himself. He has written, adapted, translated over 20 plays in Marathi, Hindi, English. His adaptation of God of Carnage, which is Uchchar, we know Uchchar, it has won Zee Natya Gaurav 2023 award. His another adaptation of Lemons, which is known as Ghanta, acted by Lalit Prabhakar and I think Mallika Hansraj. It has also been nominated for Meta Awards. He has directed plays like Shahi Pehredar, Bengal Tiger in Baghdad Zoo, Upasha. He has also acted in Uchchar, Yes Sir, Upasha, Badli, Exile, and has been nominated as Best Actor in Zee Gaurav and Mata Sanman. In 2018, he was awarded with Tendulkar Dubey Fellowship, which is awarded to 5 outstanding theatre practitioners in India every year. He conducts theatre workshops and he is a guest faculty in institutions like Lalit Kala Kendra, FTII. Besides this, he also writes Urdu ghazals, Marathi poetry, and has translated many poems across languages. He is graduated as a scientist from Purdue University. He started his work as scientist and then and currently works with solely research in applications of AI in entertainment. We will get to know about all of this and how it translates into his theatre journey. So Niranjan, I will take this opportunity to introduce Kala's volunteers. याच्यात लेखक आहेत, दिग्दर्शक आहेत, कवी आहेत, संगीतकार आहेत, नेपथ्यकार आहेत आणि म्हणूनच being a 40-hour employee आणि doing their our passion of Kala's theater journey. So हे वेगवेगळे milestones आहेत त्यांच्या theater journeyच्या आणि कलाचं प्रत्येक प्रोडक्शन हे काहीतरी नवीन घेऊन येणारं, काहीतरी विचार करून आणणारं आणि कलाचा प्रेक्षक जाताना काहीतरी घेऊन जाईल अशा हेतूने सादर केलेलं असतं. म्हणून हे सगळे प्रश्न आता मी तुला त्याच्याविषयी विचारणार आहोत कारण वी गॉट लॉट टू लर्न फ्रॉम यू. सो मी फार अजून उशीर करत नाही. आय स्टार्ट विथ माय फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन हिअर. तुझ्याबद्दल बरीच माहिती वाचताना आणि ऐकताना मला प्रकर्षाने जाणवलेली गोष्ट म्हणजे युअर थिअरी अबाउट or the distribution of responsibilities between actor and character, which is very interesting. कारण आम्हाला थोड्या लिमिटेड पिरियडमध्ये एखादं नाटक उभं करायचं असतं आणि त्याकरता काय काय उत्तम प्रॅक्टिसेस आम्ही करू शकतो, एक्सरसाइजेस आम्ही करू शकतो while rehearsing and during the show. त्याच्याबद्दल जर तू आम्हाला काही सांगू शकलास आणि युअर पॅशन अबाउट ट्रुथफुल ॲक्टिंग तर आम्हाला वी आर ऑल युअर्स. प्लीज.
Thanks so much for inviting me here. Yesterday I had a great deal of fun watching all 3 Marathi plays, and the passion with which all of you are doing this is great. And I can imagine like being in Pune and doing this, but being here and doing it, especially given that you have tight schedules and only weekends perhaps to commute and get together in one place and do stuff, because we can just walk to walk to. I can literally walk to my rehearsal space in Truthful, for example. So I really appreciate that and thanks a lot for having me. I've hidden a golden chick under one of the chairs. Can someone find it?
It's stuck.
It's under the
It's
chair.
under the chair. Under one of the chairs. Anyone?
Is it some kind of exercise? Or
One of the I also don't say that.
Yes, yes,
Exactly.
गोल्डन एक
नक्की आहे का?
Question actually I got a pretty good question. नक्की आहे का? So actually नाही आहे. So please be seated.
आल्यानंतर ती स्कूलच्या आम्ही परत लावल्या.
Thanks for looking. So the idea here is that what were you doing right now? So you were looking for a chick under the chair. Were you doing that, right? You were characters actually in my play, and you were all looking for chicks, a chick, and you were actually trying to solve a problem that your character has, which is looking for a chick. You're actually doing it, and you are not pretending to do it. You are actually trying to find the chick. So when we talk about truthful acting, it's trying to find a chick when the chick is not there. Really. So you're still doing the same thing. You're still finding the chick, and you would hope to find it somewhere, but chick is not there. Really. That's what, in general, truthful acting is. So what is, I mean, if you talk about truthful acting, what happens typically is that when you try to show that you're finding a chick versus when you find a chick, there's a little bit of that extra reality that creeps in. And we all are humans, we understand real behavior. We truly understand real behavior because that's what our brain has evolved to do. And therefore, we actually resonate with your problems, as in the character's problems. In truthful acting, what you do is you take some sort of a truth which you will believe with all your senses. You will say that this is going to be my truth for the duration of the play, the character's truth, and I am going to believe it come what may. I am not going to part from it. And the practice that you do, the riyaz that you do for this, is not parting with your truth, not letting it go at all under whatever circumstances. So ह्या करता एक असं principle, a principle which I have found out over time, is that typically characters' problems are much bigger than the actors' problems. Just think about it. What are actors' problems? अरे मला आवाज नहीं आ रही है. I have like, why is the audience not reacting at all? What will happen to the next line if I don't actually remember it? Because I tend to miss that line every time. Why is this co-actor of mine behaving like this today? Why is he or she not letting me take my lines properly? That guy always does that, etc. Are all characters' problems. But the actor's problems might be, oh, I'm incarcerated, I'm in prison, I'm trying to get out. Yesterday, Akash's problem was so big. It's a problem of life and death. Actors' problems are always smaller than all this. Therefore, believing that the character is trying to solve its problems and I'm not going to interfere as an actor is one way of dealing with all this. I don't want to interfere as an actor. I would let the character solve its problems. But then what does the actor do? And as you were saying, what are the responsibilities of these days? This is all what I have found out, I have no formal background in theatre. I have no illustrious college competition career because I never took part in competition. So thankfully, I was never indoctrinated in that. So I had to do my own bit of exploration, and that exploration leads me to this. One thing which I have is that I've been a scientist all my career, during all my career. So looking at what other people have thought, what other people have done, and then trying to do your own experiments and trying to find whether you can connect all this, whether you can build your own ideas, is what I'm sort of used to. Good at is a different thing, but I'm used to doing exploration like this. So whatever I have found on the way, I'm just sharing. It may not resonate with it because a lot of acting that we have, a lot of theatre that we have, it comes through tradition, and it comes through a lot of tradition, very strong cultural tradition, like intercollegiate competitions, for example, in Pune. That's a very strong cultural tradition. There's a tradition such as serials, the web serials, not the web series really, the daily soap serials. That's a tradition. People who are good at acting really need to have their senses open and they take in things. When they're young especially, they're learning from what they see as good acting. And if what surrounds you has been largely a particular doctrine or a particular style of acting, you will tend to replicate that, typically. And that's what we keep on doing. So I have not had the privilege / the burden of having that, carrying that legacy. So everything is just watching, doing your own stuff with actors and coming up with something out of that. So this is what I have found out over time, which may not resonate with a director who tells you that don't Paulo pude जा आणि उजवीकडे बघ. Because that's required. I mean, it's required for me to get that effect as a director. But for an actor, whose problem is this? This is the actor's problem. How do you convert it to the character's problem? Is what I have found is what is really important. I was watching a play once. It was called Aparadhi Sugandh by Niranjan Pedanekar. And there was a lady sitting next to me, an unknown lady. And at the half time, a character said something, and she said to me, it was curtains, and she said to me, what did that person say? Because I am not a Marathi person. I can understand, but I didn't get that last time. So I explained to her what it was. And then she asked me what I was doing, etc. I said, I do plays. He said, great. I said, I'm doing a play right now, but it's stalled right now because one of the guys said that I want to act in this play. He went there. So she said, who? I said, he's a very good actor. He's the Chowkidar. He said, let me tell you, when that Chowkidar was there, I was not looking at anyone else. He had such a tiny appearance in most of the things, most of the scenes, but I was just sort of, I could not look at anyone else. That to me is the power of truthful acting. When you juxtapose acting which is showing versus acting which is doing and believing in some truth and letting the character do its work, you will always feel that there is a problem. On their own, both will survive, both will do well. But whenever you juxtapose these, you will quickly notice the difference. Then one is much more affecting as opposed to the other. We suspend our disbelief, so to say, while we are watching theatre. So we allow both to come to us, but when they coexist, that is where your problem is. That you see, oh, this is much more real. And now with web series and all these other things coming, there are actors who really do a lot of truthful acting, which looks real. It is as if this character is really out to do that, and I resonate with the character is taking me somewhere, and that is human sort of brain telling you that whatever is happening is real. That is truthful acting. Now, making a distinction, in truthful versus not truthful. I'll give an example of some amount of serial acting. You might have seen Marathi serials. त्यांनी कधीच असं केलं नाही. So when they're doing that, then how often do we really do that? But or someone who is confused, me सांगतो ना, hey, have you actually noticed anyone doing that in real life? I haven't doing it. Some actors do that once they get so used to what they're playing. They do that outside. Other than that, you don't see that. So what happens is, because people, as I said, are good at absorbing what is seen around them as acting, they quickly pick these patterns. And the patterns are external and they are good at showing those patterns. But nothing's happening inside. It won't eventually move you. And it will just seem like, it won't seem unique at all. You take, and that happens in daily soap serials. That someone who is doing that, that type of a characterization is tomorrow replaced by someone else who also does that. The actor is replaced by another actor because the schedules didn't match and so on. And people just believe because it's okay. The problem is that you are not unique at all then. Whereas someone like Pankaj Tripathi, for example, he does that in everything. Yet, you believe that in Newton he is that whatever officer, election officer in Mirzapur, he is a sort of a mafia, whatever. He's a criminal. He's from a criminal family. In something else like this thing, he's a lawyer, a bungling lawyer. And you just believe that, but he does that everywhere. So he's not doing a lot of different things externally, but whatever he's doing that internally. He's fully believing inside that whatever he's doing is that character. Irfan also does the same thing. There's hardly any change in the way in which he does things. But what he does is so believable that if you get an actor who is not doing truthful, besides Irfan, you quickly are just thrown out. And this, there are several examples of this. These days you get to see a lot of these examples. So truthful acting can really get to you, get to the audience. That's one point that I wanted to make. The other point is, so truthful and non-truthful is a quality, whereas realistic and non-realistic are sort of textures. Jim Carrey, for example, is that realistic? I haven't seen anyone acting like, anyone behaving like Jim Carrey does in, say, Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, whatever he does. But you believe him the whole time. You just believe he wears that thing and he wears feathers and everything. You just believe that this character is like this. This is truthful. The conviction with which he is doing, he's believing in some truth inside, which he carries throughout the performance.
Right.
So that's what happens. So realistic and non-realistic is just a texture, and you can be anywhere here. So truthful and non-truthful is a quality. So you want to get to the quality. For that, what I have seen, the truth that you take inside, that you believe in, need not be the reality of the character. For example, can you volunteer? Enough. So now, let's say don't laugh. You're playing a character. The character has such a big bump that it falls on the ground and it's very heavy. Such a big bump. It falls on the ground and it's very heavy. Yeah. So just imagine how the character will walk. Yeah. So don't worry about it. Just it's a problem, right? You can't carry that. It's actually affecting you, the character, right? So the character is dealing with his problems, which is a very big bomb, and just carrying that bomb, right? Now this is actually not there, right? But you are believing in it, and you are going around with that, right? So this is a truth which does not exist in reality. It's not real truth. But if you want to make a character walk like this, you can give a truth like this. I am only reacting to this circumstance, which is that I have a big bomb, which I'm just telling myself, I'm not even telling the director. But director says, "Aisa aisa chalo." But for this, I'm just not going to do it outside, externally. I'm going to give some truth. That I have a big bomb, and then every time I'll be reacting to that. In every moment, I'm just reacting to it. All that I do is react. I don't have to say, "Ki main kaise chal raha hu, abhi is this right or not?" I don't have to worry about it, because there is something that's already there. Now I'm walking around with my problem. Here is one example of a truth which is not very real. We'll take a real truth, please, thanks. Yeah, so, but think about it. You can do it in private, but. So, another example. Anytime what I tell actors is that quickly make choices, because actors are. I'll tell you the problem about actors. One thing, I'm also an actor. One thing is that they think that they have to think that they are these magical beings who have to show another existence there and create another, say, place on stage. They are burdened with this expectation, typically. So they walk around with that expectation, the burden of that expectation. That you have to do this, and you have to feel, and you have to do, etc. But actually, while doing it, they tend to get very, very analytical, or they overthink about the script, about how the character is, and so on and so forth. What you really need, I'll give you another example. Sholay, the movie. Tell me a word about Gabbar. How is Gabbar? That's a dialogue. A word about Gabbar.
Cruel.
Cruel.
Yeah.
Quite cruel. Anything else? Authoritative. Perhaps manipulative. Cruel. Okay. Tell me about Basanti. Okay. Jai is Amitabh Bachchan.
Introvert.
Serious. Brave. Viru.
Lively.
Outgoing. And
Fun.
so with all the if you take the script and you try to do a big psychoanalysis of Jay, Viru, and Gabbar and so on, you can do a lot. But what people remember is just a few things. They are single words typically. Right. So conceptually, they, as you said, kitne aadmi the. Conceptually, it's just small things that are remembered. Very, very, jala Marathi apan ढोबळ असं म्हणतो. Very crude approximations are remembered. But complications or complexities are felt. Complexities you can't really articulate. So complexities are felt. But these gross approximations are actually remembered when you look at a character. So eventually you want to make sure that here is a character, I want to put across the gross approximations properly. So one easy thing to do that is adjectives about the character. Just give, say, 3 objectives to the character, adjectives to the character. 2 of them, let them come out of the script and very obvious. But one of them, is something that you bring to the table. You say that, oh, I'm giving it a twist and making it this. Yeah, this is the first step. The second step is not playing the objectives, because I remember one of my plays, Upasha. So Upasha, there's this guy called Mahendra Walus who actually looks like Upasha. He's so thin, and he used to sit without anything on, and then used to like be really like a hunger artist in Khaldi. And he asked me something like, do you think that this guy is proud? And I was telling someone else something about the scene. So I probably was not paying attention, like any good director does. So, I said yeah. And the next thing he was sitting like this. And he was saying, "Utna andla tenni te." Mahendra, what are you doing? तूच म्हणालास ना proud आहे तो खूप. म्हटलं proud म्हणजे काय? Let's just talk about proud. Proud is not this. Proud is thinking inside your head that I am better than these people. Proud is thinking I know, you don't. Proud is thinking I have done this, I have achieved this. In your head, anything that comes to you, any kind of stimulus that comes to you, reacting it in this worldview or in this view about yourself will make others say that you are proud. So an adjective is seen by the audience as they are recounting is cruel. But what you say, I am cruel. No, you don't do that. You behave without empathy. So how do you behave without empathy? You don't consider that I need to empathize, I need to respect certain feelings, etc. That's all that you, and then you'll automatically be cruel. People will say that you're cruel. But what you're doing is processing everything that is coming at you with this worldview, this view about yourself and the world. And therefore you are being cruel. So converting that adjective into a worldview or thinking, a certain type of thinking, is what you do. And you can just sit there and do it for anything. So right now this is going on, you just take an adjective for yourself and just think of how you will process anything that is coming at you. Say someone's extremely, let's say, skeptical. So most of you don't seem to be skeptical right now. Just don that adjective and everything that I'm saying, you'll suddenly realize that, no, I can question that. No, I have seen something contrary, etc. So all it takes is some effort on your part to just get to that thinking, which is the truth that you are adhering to. So while you are sitting there as a character, you adhere to this thinking process as your truth. That certain things you process without empathy. So you are coming out as cruel. Certain things you process as having a counter argument or not accepting it on the face value, and you will be skeptical, and so on. You want to do this inside your head. When you are doing this inside your head, and when your reaction comes to whatever is happening around you, it will automatically be that adjective, which will clearly be conveyed. You are being truthful in while doing that, because you are processing the world in a certain way and not like who you are. Right now, I played something called Yes Sir, and that person is a bigot. He's a professor, and he has certain prejudices. And there's a student who is it's the North Pole. Rajiv just said the North Pole. It's adaptation. So there's a Muslim student, and he has certain prejudices against that person, and he wants him to be punished for certain things that he thinks he has done. So this need for giving someone punishment, not understanding the situation, is not what I am in real life. But I need to be that while doing it. I cannot show that outside. I can choose to show that outside, that I'm strict and I'm doing this, but I need to feel that I just really need to punish this guy. when I feel that, then and only then it will seem truthful. So this is another thing, that you take adjectives, convert them into a thinking process, and use that thinking process while you are processing everything that is coming at you in every moment. The biggest truth I generally find is the other person or the co-actor. Co-actor is doing something in front of you. You cannot lose that because there is real human interaction happening. In real life, you can do that. You can probably not pay attention. But on stage, it is actually realistic. If you really want it. You want to indulge in everything that the co-actor is doing to you and you are doing to the co-actor. It's a character and you are a character. And this character wants something from the other character. And the other character is not giving it. So you want to change the character. In other words, there's a moving target in front of you which you want to change. And you want to see that change, but you're not getting it. So you'll have to indulge a lot in the character. Simple dialogues. Hi, hello, how are you? I'm fine, thank you. How about you? I'm great. So the first character comes and says, hi, hello, how are you? The second character says, thank you. Doesn't happen in real life, most of the times. The first character comes and says, hi, hello, how are you? Second, I'm fine, thank you. Because you are carrying some of that energy. Okay, I'm not that energetic, but I'm still carrying some of that energy. And then that, how are you? I'm fine, thank you. Automatically this happens. But when the character comes and says, hi, hello, how are you? I say, I'm fine, thank you. How are you? I'm okay. The same words, but entirely different feelings. So I can't do, hi, hello, how are you? Fine, thank you. And I continue, how about you? I continue, how about you? I'm okay. This cannot happen. Balloon hai, yahan se uthaya. If it goes there and if it is coming there, I can't keep on doing it here if I want to keep the balloon afloat. I have to go there and toss the balloon again. And then it will come here, then I have to pick it up from there. This has to happen. Otherwise, it's not real. What happens with actors is that they are so much engrossed in what they are feeling, what their character is feeling, they fail to see what the other character is feeling and doing to them. So there is this great teacher, Sanford Meisner, and he talked a lot about that and did a lot of work about this. And he used to say that words are not important. It's an extreme opinion, but yeah, words are not important. Emotion is like a river. Get the river flowing, and your words will float accordingly, which is right. So the thing that we have been brought up with is that ha shabda asa hi. But do you remember how you speak in real life? That I had actually highlighted this word. Of course, we sometimes relay meaning in something. We highlight words automatically. That happens. But it never happens like, I remember exactly how I spoke. I remember what I spoke about and what I spoke, perhaps. I remember what I felt. I remember the other person's reaction. But I don't remember how I spoke. It's never reproduced. So in real life, things will come up in the moment. Speech will come up in the moment. And for a realistic, at least the realistic stuff, speech has to happen there at that moment in time. For that, listening, as they say, is the ability to get affected by the other person. Ability to get affected by the other person is listening. Is a great way to put it there. How do you do this? So Meisner has certain exercises for that, like the repetition exercise, that you become available for the other person. You don't give a lot of stress on the words, and then you start engaging with the other person. So Meisner's repetition exercise is something that you could do all the time. You can just watch a few videos. In the absence of formal training, you can watch videos. There are some videos by Meisner himself, and they're pretty good at showing what is done. And you'll probably realize that some of the best truth that is around we are missing. So that's one more thing to get closer to the truth, that you really have to actively listen. You might have seen in Uchan, and you said one comment was that people seem real. So that is one of the reasons. I'm constantly listening. There is constantly listening. There is not a moment when we are going out and worrying about, at least I don't do that, worry about what I am feeling. I worry about what the character is feeling all the time. So letting the character solve its problems, not interfering. So where does that actor come? There's one rehearsal that we were doing. Sorry, can just interject me. You think that time is... we're doing Shadi Peredar, rehearsal of Guards at the Shadi Peredar. And Surat and Omkar Govardhan, Surat Joshi and Omkar Govardhan, two of us were there. And one of them was saying something, and the other guy was saying that no, I don't want to do that. Omkar we were at my house, and Omkar at one point got so angry about what Surat was saying, the character was saying, he pushed him on the wall and held him, pinned him there with his neck. He pinned him like that on the wall. And Surat also tried resisting and pushing him away and doing something and so on. And then Omkar just sat down. I said, what is the matter? He said, कितना बता रहा हूँ सुनते ही नहीं हो. So first of all, he said it in Hindi. He was playing this Humayun, and he was playing Babur. Surat was playing Babur, and they were talking in Hindi. Well, who is not listening? ये सुनते नहीं है. ये कौन है? कौन आहे तो? तो मला माहिती नाही कॅरेक्टर आहे काय. ऐकत नाही तो. मला माहिती नाही कॅरेक्टरचा विचार करतो ऍक्टरचा. I don't नहीं पता. So he came to a point, the emotions came to a point that they were so engrossed that he went one step ahead and did this to him, a co-actor, in a private rehearsal, which just happened. The actor in you is operating, because you have done all the stuff for such a long time, is operating in the back, in your subconscious, so to say, and not letting you do these things. Because this was a private place, he went there. Otherwise, he won't go there. So the actor in you regulates things for you. The character solves its problems, but those steps आगे जाना है, right में जाना है. The actor in you, without consciously invoking, allows you to do that after rehearsals. The actor in you tries to take care of muscle memory, tries to take care of all the everything. It's always there. You just got to trust the actor in you and not bring the actor in you on stage. Let the actor be at the back and guard you. That is you. Yourself is your brain. Trust the brain in guiding you on stage. Because you've been doing this. But let the character solve its problems. Don't interfere. Is what we do in rehearsals.
सुंदर एक्झाम्पल. परकाय प्रवेश आणि विकास याचे एवढे परफेक्ट रेग्युलेशन्स आहेत. सो थँक्यू सो मच फॉर व्हिज्युअल एक्झाम्पल्स. This brings me to ask you the next question, which are your adaptations. So adaptations चे सगळेच प्रभावी आहेत. Not only म्हणजे पण how do you treat your adaptations based on the place where it is happening, the times? The times are very interesting because during some of the things, some current happenings affect the presentation. Lingo, which is super important based on where it is going to be presented. तुझा त्याविषयीचा अप्रोच कसा असतो? How is your treatment towards that? आणि my sub question, because I don't want to interrupt in between, about your poetry as well. तुझी bilingual poetry is like another amazing experience to witness. How do you treat that? ग्रेसांच्या कवितांचे हे केले. So I would request you to elaborate your process towards play as well as towards poetry.
So adaptations, I just like adaptations. Why do I like adaptations? Is because sometimes when you read something, you think that you are not going to reach there. You just think it's some Nobel Prize winning author. If we think in all practical terms, I'm not going to get a Nobel Prize in literature. Though Jose Saramago, I was referring to Jose Saramago, right, wrote beautifully, in Portuguese. He wrote his first published novel when he was 66 and got a Nobel Prize when he was 73. So that way not too late. But the thing is that it's very difficult to, you realize that there are people who have done much better stuff than what you can do. And if you like it so much, what can you at least be the channel to get it to people who can't consume that? And because I like it, I want to give it to other people. I want to show it to other people. So it's like showing it to other people, but if they're not going to appreciate the context, the language, why not get it in their language? So that's the main thing about adaptation that intrigues me. The other thing comes from my profession. So when you're writing a paper, for example, you have to show what is your contribution. What it means is that you have to look at what other people have done and show that I'm adding this, by the way, see, I'm adding this. And you might be bluffing sometimes, now not a lot of addition, but now that karna hai sab mein to kuch kar. But in reality, do you feel the pleasure of adding something to whatever already exists? If the adaptation is going to give me that, I like to do it for that pleasure. Do I get the feeling of taking a story, converting it into, say, a play, while doing so, adding something to the story? It could be an interpretation, it could be a form, it could be, say, for example, Metamorphosis, Kafka's story. It starts at this Gregor Samsa waking up from the sleep after a bad dream, and he had been now converted into a big insect. He's the first one. So, what happened before this? The story talks about it. Can a play have this as the midpoint? So, can I add something before that so that this thing comes together and can be presented? The story can be presented. This is contribution from my side. It feels like contribution. You have added something that was not there. And something that was not there that still makes sense for people who have read Metamorphosis would be good. That's the thing. So, I think of that typically. One thing that you can add is to take a culture and make it into another culture. It's a transformation. It's actually you're creating something out of something very different, and you're creating you're linking human traits in such a nice way, and it becomes a feeling of I wouldn't say achievement, feeling of it gives you joy. So that is why I do adaptations. So, Uchhat is the example. God of Carnage is a beautiful play. I read it in 2010. I had started my theatre then, 2010, and I read it and I said, oh, I really want to do it. But I didn't do it for a long time for various reasons. And at one point I said, I'm going to do this. The first thing that I realized is that the lady's agent, Yasmina Reza's agent, I contacted her and she said, we don't allow any cultural transformation. So the names had to be Veronique and Michelle and whatever. I said, okay. And we don't allow any change in cultural references. So I said, then Veronique Atun Zani Klafutian. So I said that, what is Klafuti? How do we know what Lafuti is. Then you supply one brochure and so I said,
Vatsunya.
So you don't want to do that. You want to bring it to this place so that the original author is satisfied and you are also satisfied. That see, I created a new beginner. And while doing this Lafuti type of transformation, what happens is the original is set in Paris, and there are these people. The one which I have in hand is set in New York. It's in English. It's already a transformation. I'm using that transformation and the original for references, cultural references, so that I don't miss any references. And I'm taking it here. What do you do with such things? Say, Lafuti is something that you do. It's a French dish which is made out of modest ingredients. And it's a modest dish, but it is given a larger thing. For example, if you take bread and if you just roast it a bit and dip it in some sugary milk, it becomes Shahi Tukda. And you call it Shahi Tukda. But if you just bread and milk, that way if you think, right, thoda fry kiya. But Shahi Tukda. So it's like that. So I was using Shahi Tukda. But then not everyone knew about Shahi Tukda because some people call it double mithas. So people didn't know about it. So I said, what is it that you can make which, if done at home, it's a very simple, random procedure. So Angur Malay is what I thought. That if you make Angur Malay from, because I had seen that once, that because the milk got spoiled, you made something which there was Angur Malay. And that kind of flavor. And then you add things to it that the texture, thoda sa, so I got everything that was there in Lafuti. They are talking a lot about it, though it's a meager recipe. It's not like some big work of art. So I want that to happen with this. I want, say, there are these books on the table, and the books are talking about violent things. Like there is Francis Bacon and Kokoschka, visual artists. So I thought initially, visual artists, Raja Ravi Verma, but later when I read more about those people, they have violent art. And the violent art is sitting on her table and she's talking about pacification and people, like people should not indulge in violence, etc. And it's sitting on her table. And so then I said, oh yeah, I'm going wrong. Ravi Verma is not like that. Ravi Verma is a privileged painter who just drew some nice figures, that's all. So what should be there? And the second thing, which is even more revealing, is it's Paris. People are educated in visual arts. It's Pune or whatever. No one knows visual arts. But people don't know MFOC, but that's where it stops. So that's probably not right. So what do people know? Say if it is Pune, like the middle class in Pune, etc. Oh, people know about music, people know about movies. So that's where we should get there. And people who have been violent in their art. So you have Kumar Gandharv, in a way, who had to tear down things and sort of rediscover. Or Kishore Yamunkar. Or John Elia, who was very violent with his poetry. Or you have other examples. Of course, Atul Pete asked me, why not Anna Bhosani? I said, I get your, I said to him, I get your sentiment, but she's going to vomit on that. Kishore Yamunkar, if she vomits on, no one's going to kill us. You have to be aware of what is it. So I got his point, but I didn't think that it was necessary to get to that. And Kishore Yamunkar, the nice thing is that she's putting a coffee table book in front of everyone, and it's nicely sitting there. And it's talking about violent art in a way, and Kumar Gandharva. But she's talking about pacifying and So this whole, I could see that I wanted to bring out विसंगती जी आहे तर ती तिथे घ्यायला पाहिजे. So these are the kind of things that you do. You look at every cultural reference. First, what you do is that you look at the whole play. Does the meaning make sense to me? Then you take the characters. If they are transported here, what would they be? So that guy has a hardware store in New York. This guy has a hardware store in Pune. There's going to be some difference. Is this transformation okay for me? Does it change anything? It doesn't change much if you think about it. But the Pune hardware guy, I have to see why a Pune hardware guy is married to this social work lady. So I need to connect that, and we try to take care of that through their histories and so on. So I, as the writer, should know why am I bringing these two together. So characters, how they get transformed, do they mean the same? If not, what should I transform the character to so that it might mean the same? And then after you have fixed the characters, then comes language. How will this character talk in this place? You want to keep the dialogue the same because you don't want to hurt what Yasmina Reza has done. This dialogue structure is so brilliant in that. You don't want to touch it at all. So I didn't touch the dialogue structure. But the dialogue has to mean something here. And the lingo has to mean something. So there's an added dialogue. When he says that the scotch is brilliant, is what he says. Scotch ek number. He's calling it whiskey, whereas the lawyer is calling it scotch. All three of them are calling it whiskey. Whiskey. And he's calling it scotch. तो म्हणतो स्कॉच एक नंबर आहे. तो म्हणतो दोस्तानी काढली आहे कस्टमर. दोस्तानी काढली आहे कस्टमर. Just gives so much about that person as a person. So you have to see what language will the person say. And I do that in writing also. That I let the characters talk, and I listen to their conversation, and I just jot down the conversation when I'm writing by myself. But here also I try to listen to how the character might be saying all those words, so that you get whether it sounds right in the writing. So that's one more thing that you want to do. And the cultural references we talked about.
So एवढं सुद्धा रिलेटेबल करण्यासाठी एवढ्या सगळ्या लेयर्सचा विचार करून
छान बऱ्यापैकी.
So how did the agent come around to accepting the adaptation?
Yeah, so she said no. So I said, let me get back. And I took the script. Every change that I had made, the cultural change mainly, I said that dialogues are kept as they are, the structure of the dialogues. But the words and the meaning of those words and the change of references, I'm putting a footnote in terms of why I did it in English. So I sent her a script of like 100 footnotes. So she looked at it and she said, to tell you the truth, I don't have anyone to check your Marathi translation. But it seems that you have done a lot of work, and I'll just trust you with this. And now that I think we are doing 50 shows now, so we'll be completing 50 shows. Now she's also happy, and I've been sending her that. So agent is happy, and same with Rajiv Joseph's agent also. Like they are happy because they now understand it, that they can trust me with adaptations.
About the poetry, bilingual poetry, then I happened to watch one of the trailers of the Bazrisha, and please त्याच्याबद्दल काहीतरी सांग आणि तुझा ग्रेसांबरोबरचा अनुभव, कारण त्यांनी इथं कवी सुद्धा खूप आहे. So it would give us a portion.
So it so happened की मला कविता करायला आवडतात, गझल पण करायला आवडते, आणि उर्दू गझल हे शिकलोय की मीटरिंग करायला लागतं. उर्दू गझल इज अ आर्ट फॉर्म विच इज व्हेरी स्ट्रिक्ट विथ इट्स हाऊ इट इज डन. So that I have learned again by myself, but I have tried learning and practicing. So after that is done, I was generally comfortable in making poems. once it so happened that we had a program in our office company, and there's this guy who said, I want to sing a ghazal. I said, great, we have a lot of people in the audience who appreciate it. So go ahead. Quickly, like sunya maifili tamaya. I said, most of the people are non-Marathi. So you still want to sing that? And I really want to sing that. So I said, okay, let me try one thing. If I just try and convert it to Hindi, will you sing that? He said, yeah, I just want to sing that tune. I said, okay. So I tried that. So I tried to sing.
Yeah, sure.
If you permit me. वीरान महफिल मेरी आज भी है, तेरे तराने सुनाता रहा हूँ अब तक, ये महसूस होता है मुझको, मैं चांदनी में नहाता रहा हूँ, सुन्या सुन्या मैफिली तमाझा. तुझेच मी गीत गाता आहे, अजूनही वाटते मला की अजूनही चांदणं राहता आहे. कळेना मी पाहते कुणाला, कळेना हा चेहरा कुणाचा, पुन्हा पुन्हा भास होता आहे, तुझे हसू आरशात आहे. ये भी न जानू किसे देखता हूँ, है रुख ये किसका ज़हन में ना आए यूं बारहा, याद के आईने में तेरा तबस्सुम सजाता रहा हूँ, वीरान महफिल. शेवटचं, उगीच स्वप्नात सावल्यांची कशास केलीसा आर्जवे तू, दिलेस का प्रेम तू कुणाला, तुझ्याच जे अंतराता. ख्वाबों में क्यों मैं फैलाया दामन, सायों से क्यों मैंने मांगी दुआएं, दामन में मेरे मोहब्बत है फिर भी, मैं अपनों से दामन चुराता रहा हूँ, वीरान महफिल मेरी आज भी है.
तुम्ही शिकलाय?
हा, असंच शिकलो, थोडंसं वाचायला पण शिकलो आणि असंच म्हणजे.
So they say the art always comes in a bundle, and we have an example for that. आता मला पुन्हा एकदा तुला
एक प्रश्न आहे.
actually open Q&A आहे, just not to. So set
लक्षात राहील का?
इट्स व्हेरी सिच्युएशनल. की याचा तिसरा कळव आहे, त्याच्यामध्ये उभा तुझ्या अंगणी स्वराचा पारिजात आहे.
मी वेळेकडे नाही गेलो.
हा खूप मराठी आहे, आता हा कसा केला असता? व्हॉट वुड
हमदम महकती हवाओं से मेरी, सांसों की साजों को पहचान लेना, दर पे तुम्हारे तरानों से महका ये खामोश गुलशन सजाता रहा. की गुलशन ही उर्दू पोएट्री मधली एक खूप ऑफ्ट युज्ड अशी हे आहे, कॉन्सेप्च्युअली हे आहे. सो पारिजात नाही आणतात बरोबर, किंवा ग्रेसांच्या याच्यामध्ये जे आहे की जणू अंगी राघव शेला, सीतेच्या वनवासातील जणू अंगी राघव शेला, इथे जैसे के मसीह के छुअन से बीमार में जान आती. मला तो भाव आणि तो ते वाचून मला काय होतं ते मला पाहिजे. सो मसीह म्हणजे येशू ख्रिस्त, की छुअन से बीमार में जान आती, किंवा आहों के अजा में छुपी है खामोश गमों की कहानी, स्तोत्रात इंद्रिय आहों की अजा में छुपी है खामोश गमों की कहानी, गुणगुणती दुःख गुणाचं. सो असे तुम्हाला काही थोडे हे करायला लागतं, त्याच्यामुळे कल्चरल परत थोडं कल्चरल इकडे तिकडे असं होतं. इन जनरल यू वॉन्ट इट अप्रॉक्सिमेटली टू बी देअर, बट आफ्टर इट इज डन इफ यू कॅन थिंक की हे स्टँड ऑन इट्स ओन, तर दॅट्स अ गुड थिंग. इट कॅन स्टँड ऑन इट्स ओन, की असं गरज नाही की ज्याला माहितीच नाही ओरिजिनल त्याला पण ते ऐकून किंवा वाचून काहीतरी थोडे व्हायला
तोच प्रत्यय
सिमिलर.
वा, तुला काही म्हणायचे का प्लीज? संपलं नाही.
तुझ्यापेक्षा अति
तुला माहिती.
तुझे मैंने देखा नहर के किनारे, तुझे मैंने देखा नहर के किनारे, कुली जुल्फ लहरा रही थी तेरी, घने जंगलों से बरसने लगी थी, घनी छाँव से फिर बरसने लगी थी, जंगलों की सियाही हरी तुझे. तुला पाहिले मी नदीच्या किनारी, तुझे केस पाठीवरी मोकळे, इथे दाट छाये तुनी रंग गळतात, या वृक्ष माले तले सावली. घने जंगलों से बरसने लगी थी, इन्हीं घने छाँव से फिर बरसने लगी थी, इन्हीं जंगलों की सियाही हरी. तो सियाही म्हणजे काळेपणा, पण सियाह म्हणजे काळ, पण सियाही हरी.
सो परत एकदा आपण सेटवर जाऊ. ओरिजिनल आता हे अडॅप्टेशन मध्ये तू फार सुंदर सांगितलंय, आणि फॉर एव्हर अबाउट दॅट. पण जेव्हा तू ओरिजिनल काहीतरी लिहितोस, हाऊ डज युअर प्रोफेशन रिफ्लेक्ट इन टू दॅट? आणि कंक्या राजाच्या देशात किंवा सुगन सवती की महक की दास्तान, द टायटल इटसेल्फ इज सो इम्प्रेसिव्ह. हाऊ इज युअर अप्रोच, किंवा कुठून मिळतं तुला, मग तू त्याच्यासाठी काय कॅरेक्टर्स व्हिज्युअलाइज करतोस, त्याच्याबद्दल सांग.
सो लिहिताना असं होतं की तुम्हाला कशाबद्दल प्रकर्षाने काही वाटतं का? यू फील समथिंग अबाउट सम इश्यू, समथिंग दॅट इज आस्किंग अराउंड यू. डू यू हॅव an objective with respect to writing something? And I want to write a play that looks like a Tarantino movie, for example. Can I do something like that? So I typically start with an idea or an objective. Seed किंवा ऑब्जेक्टिव्ह म्हणून अशा पद्धतीने लिहायचं असं म्हणून असू शकतं. सो ॲट द टाइम ऑफ कंक्या राजाच्या देशात, दिस द फर्स्ट प्ले दॅट आय रोट. माझ्या फॅमिलीमध्ये दोन लोक एक काही दिवसांच्या अंतराने कॅन्सरनी गेले, आणि वन ऑफ देम वॉज सफरिंग फॉर अ लॉंग टाइम. द अदर वन 2 महिन्यामध्ये ब्लड कॅन्सर होऊन ही वॉज अ कर्नल इन आर्मी, आणि 2 महिन्यामध्ये तो गेला. सो असे 2 झालेले असल्यामुळे कॅन्सर असं घरी होतं. म्हणजे कॅन्सर या विषयाकडे आपल्याला अजून लाईटली बघणं शक्य आहे का आत्ता या ह्याच्यामध्ये? सो आय जस्ट वॉन्ट टू टेक इट आउट ऑन कॅन्सर, की हे जे चाललंय. सो कॅन आय जस्ट लुक ॲट द होल थिंग इन अ ह्युमरस सेटिंग. सो आय रोट दिस प्ले कॉल्ड कंक्या राजाच्या देशात, wherein there is a doctor and a patient's wife, and they are talking to each other, and he says that चांगलं आहे वगैरे, आपण थोडंसं टेस्ट करून बघू वगैरे, बाकी अदरवाईज जस्ट डाऊट आला म्हणजे करून बघू अजून, पण लेट्स सी. हे बोलतायत ते, आणि सडनली इट गोज इन टू दिस वर्ल्ड वेअर ह्युमन सेल्स आर टॉकिंग टू इच अदर, अँड देर इज दिस गाय कॉल्ड पेशा, who is like Peshi is a cell. So Pesha is he cell somehow, and he has 2 friends called Otya and Tondu because they are stomach cells. And there is a guy called Charbikar who is essentially fat, but he talks in long प्राथमिक प्रणयाची प्राची प्रज्वलन. तर तिने काही कळलं नाही, थोडं सोप्या शब्दात सांगू. अरे बापरे आपण म्हणतो love at first sight. So that kind of, he's Charbikar, there is a lot of fat of words हे words हे घातले, तर तो आहे. आणि त्या पेशाची गोडू नावाची इन्शुलिनची एक सेल ती अशी सेल म्हणजे काय, इन्शुलिन घेऊन जाणारी, आणि मग तो प्रेमात पडतो वगैरे वगैरे. आणि हे सगळं चालू असताना तिथे एकदा असं होतं की नेहमी चालू होतं, मग ती डॉक्टर आणि मग असं होतं की तो एकदा काहीतरी घेऊन तिच्याकरता येत असतो आणि ही फाईंड्स कोणीच नाही आहे तिथे आणि फक्त ते चरबीकर पडले आणि ते सोप्या भाषेत सांगत नाही लोक. पण ते असं सांगतात की बरेच इथल्या ज्या सेल्स होत्या तर त्यांना घेऊन गेला एक जण आणि त्यांनी हे पत्रक इथे ठेवलं आहे. त्या पत्रकामध्ये जर लिहिलेलं असतं की बदलणं हा जगाचा स्थायी भाव आहे. एव्हरीथिंग म्युटेट्स. माझ्याबरोबर या, माझ्यासारखे व्हा, त्याच्यातच पडून नका राहू, मी तुम्हाला नवीन दिशा दाखवतो, तुमचा हितचिंतक कंक्या राजा, असं तिथे लिहिलेलं असतं. आणि मग हा सांगतो की ऍक्च्युली बरं झालं आपण टेस्ट केली ते, त्याला तो गॅस्ट्रिक ॲडिनो कार्सिनोमा ऑफ द इंटेस्टाईन जो आनंद मधला राजेश खन्ना तो आहे त्याला. सो विल हॅव टू स्टार्ट राईट. आणि मग ती खूप हे झालेली असते आणि मग यांचं आत काय होतं आणि मग शेवटी काय होतं आणि मग प्रेमाने काय होतं वगैरे अशा टाईप पहिलं लिहिलं नाटक होतं. सो असं झालं. सो काहीतरी जग निर्माण करणं अशा पद्धतीने ते आलं. ह्यात काही याचा संबंध नव्हता पण जग इथून आले. बरेच सुगंध सारखी की माहिती असं की तसं लेख लिहिलंय. त्याच्यामध्ये असं होतं की मला म्हणजे असं जाताना मी असा विचार करत होतो की एआयचे इतकं लोक खूप विचारत होते क्रिएटिव्ह परसूट्स रिप्लेस होतील का आणि हे वगैरे वगैरे. म्हटलं लोकांना ह्याच्याबद्दलच आहे की क्रिएटिव्ह परसूट्स रिप्लेस होतील का किंवा हे. पण रोज आपण बघतोय ते मॅन्युअल आहे ते उघडून माणूस आज समोर गोज इनसाइड द मॅन्युअल अँड क्लीन्स द मॅन्युअल अँड दीज पीपल आर डुईंग इट फॉर जनरेशन्स बिकॉज देयर इज नो वन एल्स टू डू इट अँड समहाउ देयर इज नो टेक्नॉलॉजी नथिंग अँड that should be the first job that is automated and not some content writing which is already being automated. But so I said, can I write something about it? Because it's shameful in a way and I'm calling myself AI whatever and I still can't do anything about this. So it's just shame. I want to express my shame because there is no other point I can take. I have no one to talk about this really. So it felt really bad at that time. So what I said is that what if this thing is automated? What might happen in our country right now if I were to do that? And then came this idea that there is this guy Sugandh Sadki who is operating in the gutters. His father also was the same thing and he was an Amitabh Bachchan fan. So he said Bachchan अगर खड़ा रहता ना अंदर तो भी उसका सर ऊपर इतना ऊंचाई चाहिए. So he was like that, romanticism about Bachchan and his things, etc. And this guy is in love with a sex worker who thinks that you smell of that, and it's not even if you take a bath many times in a day, it doesn't go because it's in your head and it's in my head. It's not going. So you just leave this job and you do it. He said, where will I get a job? Where will I get a job, etc. So yes, sab chal raha hai. So one guy comes and says, his supervisor, that there is this sarkari this thing that they have this Swachh Bharat Eklavya Yojana, wherein this self-learning robot will come and just watch you do your work and will learn. And then the robot will do that work. If this succeeds, then we'll replicate this everywhere. So the success of this will be shown as an event, and Sakshat Bhagwan is going to come to that event. And Sakshat Bhagwan is the character there, who always talks about dosto, tomadachi, amigo, etc. But never mitro. So, and that was played by Saili. So he's coming, and therefore, if you can do this, you can teach this robot called Eklavya, you can you graduate to another job. So this guy is really happy. He wants to do that. And the engineer comes and says that what we'll do is that we don't have time, and deadline is there. So we'll put the setting on advanced. There are 3 settings: basic, normal, advanced. We'll go full steam. We'll just let this guy learn, and so the robot learns. And because the robot is in advanced stage, it proactively learns a lot of things. And on the eve of that event, the robot has done a lot of Googling and has just amassed information and goes missing. And this guy goes inside the gutters to find this woman. And this guy says that whoever does this profession has constantly been, I'm just learning from the past, constantly been oppressed. I don't want to be oppressed. So therefore, I'm preempting this and I'm just going on a preemptive strike. So I won't do this one. So they sort of make him come out, like they sort of deceive him and get the password and so on. And then he's again put back to basic mode. And so that he doesn't do this rebellion. But now, because it's a basic mode, he can't do it alone. He has to be assisted. And then they say that now they are coming up with this Ekalavya Dronacharya Yoga. And we are reuniting your Ekalavyas with Dronacharyas. And so this is how they will work together now. And so on. And this climax is something else, but this is how it goes. So this came out of that thing, that the AI, it came out of AI, but something around me that really felt like I just had to write something about it.
याचे सेट्स आणि तू फार उत्तम सांगितलं होतेस. सो त्यालाच कनेक्टिंग असं या सो त्यालाच कनेक्टिंग माझा पुढचा प्रश्न आहे ह्याचे सेट्स आणि एकंदरीत सेट्सकडे बघण्याचा तुझा दृष्टिकोन फार इंटरेस्टिंग वाटला तुझ्याबद्दलची माहिती वाचताना की द वॉल डिस्ट्रॅक्शन कशी येते की तुला धावत्या माणसांमध्ये एक थांबलेला माणूस दाखवायचा आणि खूप थांबलेल्या माणसांमध्ये काही धावती माणसं दाखवायचे त्याच्याबद्दलचा तुझा अप्रोच आणि प्रॅक्टिसेस याच्याबद्दल सांगशील का इन्क्लुडिंग द सेट्स दॅट यू हॅव डिझाईन फॉर दिस वन.
Right. So in set design, what I think is that it has to be integral. The set that you design has to be integral to the concept of the play. Somehow it has to aid the concept of the play. It has the spine of the play conceptually has to be reflect in the set because it talks a lot. The set talks a lot, and that's what you want to do. Sometimes it can be a setting, that's okay. But when the meaning is not straight, then the set has to talk about the meaning. I'll give you an example. So I'll give various examples.
Right.
Here. Shahi Peredar was an adaptation of Guards at the Taj by Rajiv Joseph. So Rajiv Joseph could have written Guards at the Pyramids and the play would still stand. He wanted a big structure, a beautiful structure, a powerful structure, put into place by powerful people, while commoners worked on it. And those commoners also had some dreams. And what would happen if they had dreams of beauty and they wanted it in their own life? Would they be able to get it? Is what the play talks about. But it could have been anything. Taj Mahal is what he took. But when I translate it in Urdu, and it also talks about cutting of hands, because these guys are given a punishment that you have to cut the hands of 20,000 workers, and they do it in one night. So I said, is this even real? So I did some amount of research in terms of were the hands really cut? And the evidence overwhelmingly says that there is a lot of evidence against it, that people who were involved here have built other things, or people who were doing that were going to build the Black Taj Mahal, so the same team was going to be there, etc. And there is no evidence for it. So it's a myth. It's a very romanticized myth, but it is there. In the current situation in the country, with names such as Humayun and Babur, with this kind of a myth powering the whole thing, when they're talking in Hindi Urdu, and their names are Humayun and Babur, and there is a Shah Jahan, the play means something else, suddenly. Context is really, really the biggest thing that directors and writers probably should look at. Directors should mainly look at context. Context is the main thing that you really want to pay attention to. And when we did this for this film, I was directing, I thought that it might come out as something else. That देखो मुगल ये कैसे थे इन्होंने ऐसा किया, and that is based on the myth. So powerful the wordplay. Said that cannot be done. So you have to take it out of that historical context, 1648 का historical context somehow. And then I thought that why not do this? So I just put it here. I hope you can switch. Put it here for you. So I put two CCTV cameras. Two CCTV cameras on both the sides. These two people are on the stage. So one was capturing this part, one was capturing this part, and both were being projected at the back. So what you see is this visual many times. Whenever they are in a place where they are sort of under surveillance, they are seen. But they had this place when they would come here, and you're behind those cameras, and they would talk about all these things which are secret, and they are not seen there. So this was one of the things that directly gets you out. What are CCTV cameras doing here? So they look like that time, but something is different, something is wrong. And while this started, I put a drone in the audience. So imagine now it is starting, and there is this music going on, which has some construction noises and some music by Niranjan, very good musician. And the drone was moving around. What I really wanted is to capture the audience and detect their faces with bounding boxes and project while this was doing, but I couldn't do that in time. So the drone comes, and imagine like play is starting and suddenly a drone comes and hovers around you, and there were these words, इस कहानी में इतना ही नमक है, इस कहानी में इतना ही सच है जितना कि दाल में नमक. These are Uday Prakash's words in one of his novels, and very famous quotes, and there's some more after that. I thought that was really pertinent, that I should make it clear and before and after. So this allowed it to be thought about as an allegory rather than a historical tale. Later also, when they are working in the dungeon, they are wearing these aprons, and there is this industrial curtain, which is typically used in industries. It's also used in meat things, where all their hand cutting is going on behind, and they are wearing these gumboot type of shoes and gloves, and they are cleaning with a mop. So what that does, and this is very industrial, you know, like steel type of structure and so on. So what this does is, it again like really takes you out of the place, and it sort of trains you into thinking that you have to think beyond just the historical stuff. And later also, so these are the kind of visuals it produces. So those two and these two and so on. And also it gave me another nice sort of collateral, not damage but benefit. That in the last thing they're talking about their past. And he is actually imagining, one of them, Humayun is just imagining, and he hears his voice. So he goes, so now he goes to the CCTV camera, lights go. You have two CCTV cameras, like this, and these guys are going in the camera, almost like this. There are no lights. So CCTV camera has this infrared mode, wherein you have a ghostly appearance. Your eyes become ghostly. So you have these two large faces, like this ghostly faces talking to each other. There is nothing else that is seen. And when that subsides and these guys come in the front, he's wearing a sort of a cape type of thing, something around him. And as they are saying, they're saying, "Wah wah, dekho to, dekho to, dekho to." These birds are flying and he's watching. And Humayun looks at him and just removes this thing because he sees, and this guy just opens his arms. and there are wings. This is not there in the original thing. So I wanted to somehow connect the birds and hands and so on. So now he has wings. Because it's all in a dream. So this whole thing together takes it to a different place. So that's what you have to do in general. This is Sugandh Sadke. I don't have a good photo, but what you see here, these three things, are just yoga mats, yellow yoga mats. And what you do is that you place a spot which is narrow, and you just focus it like that, profile, just focus it like that. And we had put some genda petals on that, marigold petals. These are also used as an allegory to human excreta, as a thing to human excreta. So in the first this thing, he's sitting in one of those manholes like this, and these guys are chanting mantra like things, like putting that on him, and he's sitting there, and then he emerges out of that. So you get a visual appearance of shimmering because of those petals, and you also get almost a column-like appearance there because of that reflective mats. So these are my manholes. Actually, if you look at the set, there is nothing. There is no set. These are lights, but there is no set. Mainly these three things and a level behind. I want to now make it inside a manhole. All that is there is a manhole cutout, a small paper cutout, paper which is like a grey scientific paper, which is cut out in the shape of a manhole, placed at a height to just give this. So it feels like you're inside. So that way it's minimalist, but you still want to make it. Here is that avatar, which is like there's a human, there's an actor inside, in front of a camera, talking on a microphone and doing his things, and they're capturing it by a markerless motion capture, and the motion capture is powering this 3D avatar. So this 3D avatar is the Eklavya for some time. So people thought that it was a video running, like in your day, but it wasn't video running. So we wanted to tell people, no, it's happening in real time. So this guy Sugandh said, कितना होशियार है, पता है आपको इतना होशियार है, कुछ भी पूछो सब कर लेगा, बोलो कुछ भी पूछो, कुछ भी. Then people just say sing or tell a joke or something else, and that guy would do it, and that guy would do it. So then you, oh, this is real time, we are interacting with it right now. So that's what happened here. This is Bengal tiger at the Baghdad Zoo. So when I read the play, I thought that it was about everything being thrown in a limbo. The whole play is about everyone is in a limbo. And literally the tiger is in a limbo. There is Uday Hussain who is dead, and his ghost is walking around with the head of his brother, Hussain, and he is walking around with that. And everyone's future is uncertain. And that's what happens in a war like that. So Bengal tiger at the Baghdad Zoo. So I wanted that limbo, so I took these boxes, and we want to show a wall which is in the process of destruction. So it's like there are these boxes, and imagine that there is something like, let's say, a blast happening, and all these are flying out. So that's what this structure was, and there is some more here, and there's some more here, and there were 6 LED bars which were creating different things at different times. So this gives me say sections in a way, and they are just projecting on the cyclone. That's all. So something like this. The same thing looks different in a different. Yeah. So here you can see how it is stretching one, And we use boxes instead of doing that because these are people being shipped around. Like the war is also people being shipped around from here and there. So boxes would be a good choice, we thought, and retrieve. So these are all hung by these nylon threads called tangoose. It's called tangoose. Tangoose. And all that is the structure, whole structure is created outside and just taken there and hung. It's not a lot of work actually. If you think about it, not a lot of work, but once done, it feels like a lot of work.
Who is the light director? Light director?
For this, it's Sachin Lele, who is working now in Jordan with some cultural something they have, and he does a lot of shows in Jordan. He stays in Jordan now. For the last 3 years, he has been in Sachin Lele. And this is also Sachin Lele. So, some time I have worked with him. So this is Upasha. So you want to create again that Upasha's place. I put this pink, these pink paper sort of shades. They are there. What they did is that there's a glow that it produces. So wherever he's sitting, there is this typically a glow that you get. And see, and that pink I really wanted for Upasha because your innards are pink, your this thing is pink, the meat is pink, everything. That pink I wanted and grey I wanted because of the audience. So grey and pink was a scheme that. So this is from NST. This is a show from National School of Drama.
Is it Hunger Artist?
Hunger Artist, yes. So then there's a play called Exile that Tranda. So Exile is Mahmoud Darwish, the Palestinian poet. His poetry about exile, because he was thrown into exile when Israel had pushed people aside. At that time, because he was writing poetry pro-Palestine, he was sent in exile. So he was outside for 26 years. And it's difficult for us to imagine what that feels. So I was just looking at, is there anything else around us which is close to that? So one thing I was making commutes at that time to my company, which was slightly far away in the way. So not slightly, quite far away. So 1.5 hours, I was just sitting there in the bus and one way, and I saw people around me. If you talk to them, they find it strange in general because some stranger is coming in talking. Unless you, the first time I went, people felt as if they were violated. And they're not listening to music, many of them. They're not reading anything. They're not talking on phone. They're not into their phone. Some people are just sitting there and not doing anything for those 1.5 hours. So I just talked to some of these people and asked them what do you feel here? So they said, I can't really read because it's like this, and I can't listen to music because my ears get this thing. People have different types of reasons. They said, but what about the community? I said, what do you have? This is the most hated part of the whole day for me. But karna padta hai, is what people said. No one had any stance about community. No stance at all. So I said, probably commute is your exile. It's in a way forced. Yeah, of course you are doing it for making money, but it's in a way forced by society on you, and you are just abiding. You are not even saying anything about it. It's as if you have no power over it. So why not put these two things together? So it's people traveling in a bus while Mahmoud Darwish himself comes through a book of poetry and he talks to them, and you get sort of a montage of their experience of the commute and what is happening here. Say for example, there one guy says that close the window because I'm getting all that pollution. Another guy says I'm suffocating here, open the window. And they're like fighting, and eventually they all get suffocated and go into non-realistic. And then this guy talks about, there's a patch where he talks about smells. and he says that every city is a smell. And he describes various cities. Like Moscow is the smell of vodka and something. Paris is the smell of cheese and bread and like magical meetings and so on. So he just talks about many this thing. And then he says cities which cannot be identified by their smell are not worthy of being trusted. And wherever people from exile go and make things their home, they don't get a smell. They get like merging of several smells. And the smell that they have in mind is just like a tone map. And it's very beautifully written, whatever he has written. So I'm taking it in Hindi. And for that, I wanted to show this commute. So obviously, commute could be shown in a variety of ways. But this is what I tried doing. I got this truck. So it's called a flatbed truck. So flatbed truck has a flatbed which tapers at the end, and you put a car on that. So it's used for transporting a single car. So what you have essentially is a flatbed where you have these people sitting, which goes down. So I said, yeah, reality going into this poetry. So I can probably do that. And what we did is presentation on the other side. So if let's say the truck comes and the bed comes inside, the face part, the body of the body, what cabin of the truck is outside. You can't see it. And it comes like this. People are sitting like this and this audience, both sides. Here there is a projection, and the poet is there, and he sometimes climbs on the truck, comes back, and you are sitting and you are watching what you want to watch, like out of this. Was the general idea. So you can, like, it goes into very magical sort of creation, because what you have is happening like this on the truck, and sometimes because of the light, it creates those. You see that tapering thing, and on this thing also there is some projection and people acting in front of that, etc. For Love is Hanikarak, I wanted to keep it very, very simple. So we just use one bed and a couple of small things, and the bed was kept in different places. And so sometimes it is kept.
This part of that was all the transitions were done on stage.
On stage.
So you didn't have to have a blackout.
No blackout.
That was the best part.
The blackout was more like a grey out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and there was this thing, because what we wanted is the boundary. They're operating. Both these people are operating when they're injured, or one of them is injured, or under the circumstances of injury, death, and gruesome playground injuries. That's the original play. So we wanted that boundary of. So I said, let's create a boundary within which they operate, and this boundary has just this medical bed, which can be. So they're always operating under this, and the bed could be kept under in different ways. So we had a funeral bed, because in the original there was a funeral, but here it's more like a pyre. So we just put it outside that boundary and put a sort of an orange light behind it, so that it got lit from below, and it felt like a pyre. And it has the medical bed has these holes like this. So those holes were also lit. So it created an interesting visual. So that's how you approach, in my opinion, sets. That you really want to get the idea first, and the set which talks about sort of really resonates with that idea. So what you want to do.
I read about Shahi Pahiredar that they did the show underneath a real bridge. So, so they had because the bridge had lots of these, the setting was just perfect automatically.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine that. That will really help. Yeah, I hadn't seen that version there. But, yeah.
So now it is open for Q&A. Like anybody has any questions, feel free. आणि चारला थांबलंच पाहिजे असं काही नाही. He has bandwidth. He also mentioned the interesting. So feel free.
One basic thing, like in the Natak terminology, we often hear like somebody, he or she has good diction or bad diction. So what does diction actually mean?
So my idea of diction is whatever is being said, is it legible or can it be understood or not? So that's one part. The other part is the pronunciation according to the language that person speaks. So say for example, this is interpreted in different ways, and this is one thing which is now people talk more about it, is that in Pune especially, the theatre scene was largely dominated by a particular community for a long time. So their language becomes the language of, this is the right language, and you have to have that language. But later, as different people started talking different languages, different plays started coming, the diction is no longer that diction. The ideas of clarity, being able to hear everything. Yeah, but don't we understand each other when we are not talking like that in real life? We do. So it's sometimes overrated, but sometimes what happens is that if you're not paying enough attention, you just miss on things.
Yeah.
All that you want is it should not be missed. Like whatever is being said should be relayed.
Effectiveness of communication.
Effectiveness of what you're speaking. But again, diction has many meanings in many places. Some people just use diction for something which is not diction. And so on. So it has many meanings. Sorry.
Lower question.
So in the start you mentioned about truthfulness being qualities and then texture, the scale of texture. And I'm sure the other one is a spectrum, that being like extreme points. And because you are both a writer, director, and actor, the entire journey, where on the spectrum you land, कुठे किती आधी फायनल केलं जाईल म्हणजे लेखकच 80% डिसिजन घेऊन टाकेल आणि दिग्दर्शकाला 20% रोल आहे, or do you have does it go up till the actor, up till the act?
Okay. Yeah, realism.
Truthfulness, the conviction तर पाहिजे.
Conviction पाहिजे, बरोबर. So, yeah, I mean, very good question. And this is actually dependent on how the director wants to treat the play. Because there is one saying that the writer, the playwright is dead. Is the same. That when the writer takes up a play, the playwright is essentially dead. You get to talk to Shakespeare. You don't get to talk to Chekhov. Then why talk to Vikram? So the idea is that the writer has done something and it's there now. Now you want to take it. So writer is dead. Even if the writer feels bad about changing things and all, for all practical purposes, the longevity will come only if people do it in different ways and interpret it differently. So it's not great on the writer's part to say that it has to be done like this. Beckett used to do that. Right? Even the stage instructions, each needs to be followed, is what he used to do. But I mean, while giving thing, we say that stage instructions are. So that way, Vada Chirevandi, for example, will it be more effective as an ultra-realistic play? Will it be effective as realistic with some sprinkling of non-realistic places? Say, for example, when she is wearing those jewelry, you want to take it out and make it non-realistic. That can be a choice. Or do you want everything to be non-realistic? I do Commedia dell'arte presentation of Vada. And if I say that, will it be acceptable to people? Where is the strength of that? It's probably in its realism, in how people really really interact with each other. So then probably it's not very much amenable to making it non-realistic. Certain things you can do, but still it's just non-realistic in visuals. Say for example, she's wearing those clothes, suddenly a like flash of light comes and everything starts shimmering somehow, how we don't know. Maybe some projection, something, but starts shimmering and he's just looking at her and it just goes. It's a vision that you create for a limited amount of time, which is not realistic. But it goes close to what you want to see. You can also see in a totally realistic way, but a director can say that I really want to do this. And I think it will add some meaning to what I'm saying. That can be done. But to know whether this play has its strength in whether the logic of the play is realistic, or whether the logic of the play is not realistic. Whether the logic of the play says, look at all the losses that these people have suffered, but at the same time, look at the irony, look at the visangati. Then it's a black comedy. When it's a satire, you say that, or a caricature, you say that we are taking certain things and showing them bigger than what they are. So, and we are distorting them, then it's a caricature. So it's the logic of the play, underlying play, that you want to think about. Is the logic following the real conventions? Then it is a realistic play. You might want to take it realistically. And then this 80-20 is your call. Really.
So you mean literature has a lot to say about it?
But certain type of literature has a lot of room.
Okay.
So what type of literature has a lot of room for changing these is what you can. So for example, something like this. Now I would still call it literature. Sugan Sarke ki Mehki Dastan versus God of Carnage. Sugan Sarke ki Mehki Dastan has a lot of underlying possibilities of it being non-realistic, because this thing itself looks fictional and staged and so on. But God of Carnage, everything looks real. So I have seen a French adaptation, French rendition, wherein they had these glass walls and non-realistic acting and so on. It's good, and because the script is so powerful, it will still execute, and it will still be enjoyable, and it will still be nice. But what you see in the real human behavioral exchanges adds much more to it than what you would do with etc. That kind of stuff. It doesn't lend itself well, but if you have 10 renditions and one of them is like that, it serves the purpose of seeing something different than what you normally see. So all these things are there. So, but it's to be looked. The script is to be looked at. The script says certain things about what the logic should be. How much you want to respect is your call, but it's generally good to respect that to a great extent. Again, open.
So do you like to direct the plays that you have written because you can be truthful to or what you want to convey?
Someone else takes those.
You're okay with that.
But typically what happens, when the play is out and you want to find directors and say that, instead of that I say that I want to be engaged, so I'll direct it myself. I tend to do that now the writer is dead. But the writer just resurrects and comes back and makes certain changes and so on. But I would call them director's changes. Like they are there from the director's point of view. And I agree that ideally they shouldn't be there. Yasmina Reza's thing that the end of the play is kind of confusing to some people. Like, what is happening? What is really happening? Is what people are asking. But I said, and people said that should we just get that hamster back later, or should we get that guy's playing with the other guy? I said, so I said, no, this has worked for her. It has run so many places. It should work for us also. What is the problem? So you respect the writer, but if I myself am the writer, I don't respect the writer that much, and I can get back. So that happens. But while doing that, the direction, it's good to say at one point in time, this is the final thing. I'm just going to use this now. I won't keep on struggling to get it to the right shape. I'll render it, and certain things will happen on the in rehearsals. While we are actually getting the scene to life, there might be some changes. I don't even need to document them. Then the actors changes and directors changes. Let them be there, but let the script be like this. So I freeze it at one point in time. Though I always want to go back and do something as a writer, but not practically. Practically, it's not good.
And the 2% play, like where you also act and direct.
Yeah.
How do you?
No, so that time I'm directing, I'm just acting.
Oh.
Yes, sir, I'm just acting. Suraj Parasnis is directing.
Oh, is the director. Have you acted in the play that you are directing in?
I don't like to do that because you can't see.
From the
So I'm talking all about truthfulness and all. Then
you are always thinking about.
if I'm thinking of how this is coming out as a director, I don't want to do that. So better to just keep them separate.
What's the storyline of Yasser?
Yasser is the not in my Rajiv Joseph. Rajiv Joseph, I'll probably do a more so Rajiv Joseph and invite him to watch. So it's about high school, I think. It's a high school. And there's this vice principal of the high school who has called on the eve of a summer break. Summer break is about to start. And he's called this guy who is the son of an immigrant, Syrian immigrant. That's the original. And he has certain questions for him, so he gives him a detention because he has missed a certain class. Now, with this background, he goes into sort of digging deeper into what he has been doing, etc. And it emerges that there's some other secret, and both of them are involved, and how that secret unravels is what the whole play is about. So Yasser is also, this is not school. So this is also set in a school, not one of school, the junior college. So that's what you want to say. And this guy is in 12th standard, and this guy is he's a Muslim guy, and his father has a business for which import-export type of business. So he has to go and travel to Saudi Arabia many times, and sort of he's well-to-do, very well-to-do, and rich in fact, and all the prejudices that way, and against each other, and so on. So that's what you want to explore. So, but the whole thing about that play is that, I mean, it's another writing. I don't know whether it's a problem or he's probably just said that I'll just do this. There's a lot that they open, a lot of threads, and the play ends somewhere else. So you're solving a mystery, but you realize that something else is at the. And it's a very human thing, just like Shahi Perera. It's about two humans interacting. So despite all that mystery, with which you play for a long time. So while I was acting, and Suraj said that I have not done this full-length play, like 90 minutes play where only two characters are there. And it happens in real time. I have never tried that. So I just want to do that. I'm used to bang, the play opens on a bang. Now the second scene, now something else, now something else. I'm used to more of that kind of entertainment. So he was like, why are things not moving forward? But I said, sometimes like you don't watch reels, you watch the whole thing. So the play will take some time to get it and so on. So this is a play like that. So be patient with it. And but that idea, so I put an idea there to the director that we'll have, what he's doing is that he's coming up with a point, and he already has them written on the board. So he's just flipping it, and then he says tension, and then after a while he says lies, because you just lied. I just explore that. After a while he says something else like discretion, because he's expelled from an international school, and when he asked why he was expelled, the principal just said discretion. So when he brings up that, he says discretion, and there are these all beats. I mean, these are all different scenes which are happening in the same thing in real time. But he's coming up with all these, and eventually he has this grand this thing called guilty in the end. But before that, certain things come out, and then later, while he's leaving, he flips it, and in front of him just stares it and throws it away. So when that happens, he's also guilty at that point. This guy is also guilty because of certain other circumstances. Because of this, you suddenly don't feel that, why are you not closing that and that and that? Because it doesn't matter what he is saying here with this. So here, being an actor, I try to meddle with the director thing. But as a writer, I try not to worry. Ganta. So I thought that the play does not really talk about politics in India. But Mohit construed it like that. And I gave the second draft to him, which didn't have any specific comments, but the actual one has a lot of specific pinpointed comments to the current government. So what that did is that it became a play about that. And after half of the play, there is no mention of that really. So it shifted the balance, in my opinion. But he wanted a sharp political comment. But I thought that the play was not talking about it. It was talking about two humans in a situation where things are looming above your head. And so on. So that also might happen, that you don't get to do anything as a writer after one point in time.
Tell us more about the context of that.
Right. So gruesome playground injuries, I read it to a few people. Mohit Takarkar was one of them. And he really liked that play. He said that I really want to do it, give it to me. Next day also, Lalit also was very interested. He said that we really want to do this. But I said to Mohit that I really want to do this play because only two people, and I don't really get the resources to do plays with more people. So I really want to do this. If there's something else, I can do it for you. So at that point, Mohit was dejected in a sense, like I didn't give him the play. But after some time, he said that there's an interesting play. Would you like to adapt? And it was this lemons. So when life gives you lemons, that way. So she uses it at one particular point in time. So the premise of the play is that there is this couple, and there's a law that is going to arrive, and the law is about quietitude. It says that people will be allowed 140 words per day to communicate, just to make people quietitude. It just says quietitude. Why it doesn't say anything about the original play. And so now go on. So what happens that the play is about 68 scenes, and some scenes are like two line scenes and so on, and they are non-linear. So it's just like this, everything is here, there, and so on. But it is essentially about these two people saying that from different backgrounds who are partners, and they're saying that he says that I'm an artist, so I know that this is this is going to affect all of us, and in general we should not take this lying down. So I'm going to protest. I'm going to join every protest that is going to happen next time. He's going actively doing things. She's a prosecutor. Actually, in the original, she's a divorce lawyer, and she says it's okay. It's not going to matter that much. And actually, when the law comes, after that they have to use these words, 140 words. So how do they navigate that? So snapshots from that, and what you want to do, what you don't want to tell, you'll still not tell. What you want to say will still convey through less amount of words. So what has really happened to the relationship? Whether it was really affected by this or not, it would have still been the same. Because he has some sort of a secret which he wants to tell her, but he's like hesitating before also. Later also he comes to the same thing, and he says at one point in time that I want to tell you something, and she says, I only have 3 words left. No, not right. Or he says that I want to. So when it comes to a stage when it's that thing is about to start, that you should not say anything. Like you should not speak more than 140 words. He said, let's just get out things that we want to talk about each other. So about you, this, about you, this. So they just get out so many things, and everything that is like they wouldn't imagine the other person would say. They come out. So there are very interesting things that happen.
Brilliantly written.
Very well. But I mean, bringing it here was its own this thing. But that's the thing, that the original plays are so nicely written. This one and God of Carmen also. It's so good. Like, Garden of Taj also I do. So it feels good if they are coming to Marathi. It feels good. Like, just open to so many other people who wouldn't have other people.
पुढे विचारलं असेल तर चालणार असेल तर अजून एक प्रश्न विचारते. Sometimes the plays are written, they are executed, and then something happens in the global platform, काहीतरी current affairs होतात. आणि मग presenting the same plays, do you ever had to like change the context, be very respectful toward the sensibilities? असं काही सांगू शकशील का please?
Yeah. So there is this very nice book I would urge you to read, And Then You Act, by Anne Bogart. And Anne Bogart is a director, union director, and she has in this book, the first chapter is context. So she talks about War of the Words that they were doing, War of the Words and this thing. They were doing the shows of War of the Words, and talked about how Martians came here, they started attacking, and then they went to the streets of the city and they're bombing here, there, and then things are falling, this, that, and so on. This was in 1999 when they began. And then 9/11 happened. And after that also, they started the show. And then they realized while doing that show, they're doing streets of New York, buildings are falling, Martians are leaving. It carries different meaning because of the context. And that's the thing, that you can't take things out of context. And the context can change the meaning of a play. And you have to be really careful about that. A play that recently opened called Joyride, Vibhavari. So it's by a German guy called Lutz Huber, and called Revenge. And in that play, you're trying to sort of understand why a person assaulted a teenager, assaulted another teenager, a girl, a boy assaulted a girl when they had gone on the joyride, sort of. and killed her. And why did that happen? So they're trying to find that out. In the original, there's an investigator talking to all the kids, but in this one, they have a documentary filmmaker talking to people 20 years after it had happened, and then you have certain sort of what happened in their life being enacted by the younger versions, and then people talking about it, etc. So now this play, when it opens and when someone talks about violence, that like women have to endure in general, and he's trying to justify why I was being violent. This play being staged, say, a week after this Kolkata case, rape case, carries different meaning suddenly, and you cannot escape it. It's very difficult. Takeshi Samwan, he talks about silent majority and etc. Before the elections, it carried a different meaning. After the elections, things became slightly different, and now it's no longer that serious. Like whatever the comment that he's making is no longer that serious. It's because of like it was nonsense. Before that, it's more like the silent majority sometimes always comes back and says, but now that is also not happening. And he says that, and then you just think, will the silent majority never speak now? And the burden of that is much higher. But after this election results, you just say,
yeah.
So it changes the like big things which happen globally changes. They change the meaning of what is being perceived, and sometimes you have to do certain things. And so in one of the plays, it's not mine, but there's a reference to Ram, and we just had this Lalit Kala Kendra incident where people had done some play within a play, and they had shown the actor who is playing the actor who plays Sita smoking on stage, and then people just took that, and then there were a lot of problems, like a lot of political stuff happened. And just after this, there is someone doing something called Ramayana, something like that, and suddenly you see that everything that they are doing there, without this incident, wouldn't be harmful at all in any way, or could be interpreted the way it is being interpreted. It would not be interpreted. But after this, it's like you're doing it on purpose, or is it a reaction to that? Actually, the play was set 2 months before the thing. So these are things that artists have to be.
काय subtitles दिसायला लागतील लोकांना सांगतात.
Sangrati,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
When this the Ayodhya Mandir thing happened, 22nd January, FTI people, students, they staged a protest and they showed Ram Ke Naam, demolition of public worship, those videos. So people obviously came, they did a lot of stuff there. The whole problem is no one teaching the FTI kids that context they go. You could have just gone with your iPhone if you want. You could have shot any kind of footage that you would get for those 3 days. Couple of days before, couple of days afterwards. You could have seen people being euphoric. You could have seen people, say for example, a Muslim rickshaw driver. What do you feel about what is going on? And how that person answers. You could have seen all the flags on the streets, and you could have filmed them, and you could have seen the guy who is playing them also on the other day. You would have so much material which no one would object, and that under those circumstances, everyone say, yeah, film. And then you could have made a film 6 months down the line, and that would be brilliant. So this is like the power of context. If they know the staging of a protest versus actually putting together something that will actually make your statement is context dependent, and I think that's what needs to be taught as theatre people. Like, always be aware of the context, because it gives you a lot of power at times. Your work a lot of power. It might give you, or it might take away things from you.
I have another question.
You can settle it.
So you showed some examples of how you are marrying technology with art. Are there any other examples that you have where you put those together, or any examples where you wish you can?
Yeah, so actually I have a TEDx talk on creating a scene with science. It's called Creating a Scene with Science. So it talks about all the experiments that I have done, some of the experiments that I have done while thinking scientifically or trying to bring technology to theatre. So I have done a few things. For example, one was script analysis. So what you're doing is that you have these. So I came across, by working, we came across some work which rated words in terms of their arousal and valence. So these are psychological terms. That arousal is the intensity of the word, valence is the polarity of the word. These are used in terms of emotions. How intense is an emotion, how polarized is an emotion. So you are facing, say, joy, ecstasy, mirth, etc. Ecstasy becomes much more, in the right context, becomes much more far positive and high intensity. Whereas calm becomes low intensity, neutral, slightly positive maybe. So words have these things. So I was just wondering if we can capture the intensity of words as they are being spoken or talked about. You say that he darted to the table versus he went to the table. So went doesn't have the intensity, darted has the intensity. So what I imagine is that in a script, the viewer's attention is always going down. It's a depleting resource, attention. They're paying attention now, it will go down, 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 down. And something has to compete against it and get it up again. So let's assume that the words are bringing it up. So against this opposing thing, the words are bringing it up. And I try to construct a profile of intensity just by using words. So I did that for a few scripts. I did that for screenplays as well. And in the case of scripts also, I could find that there were moments of, like there were patches when you get lull or flat tone. So that is where you want to really do something directorial. I found that they were really patches where there was this thing, and I tried it for a number of scripts and a number of things. Where I wanted to get to a number which was nice. I had written up a paper, but I hadn't submitted it. So something like that. Or for Shahi Peradar, I had done sort of cluster analysis of what are the concepts that are there. So typically what happens is you have these concepts which are being talked about, and some of those concepts are related. Some are related to each other, and you form these clusters of meaning just by looking at words which are used often. And there are some which are cross-related. And good writers typically have a lot of cross-connections. This is called rabt. This rabt is the Farsi word for relatedness. Rabta, rabt. So how do you make a lot of rabt is what I was studying. And for Shahi Peradar, I found these clusters. And then I said, can I take one cluster which is not connected and directorially connect it? So there is a cluster which is related to birds, and there is a cluster which is related to surveillance. I connect it with drones. There is a cluster which is related to birds and arms which are cut. I connect it with wings. So I want to add even more connectedness to it. So the unconnected clusters also I'll I try to connect through direction. Does that add more like denseness to the meaning? So that I found to be useful. So these are the kind of things which I do. Technology as in core technology, as in hardware, things like that. One thing that I was going to do with Abhay Mahajan, but we didn't get to that stage. And Love is Hanikar also, I was going to try that, but again, too much work involved at that time. So it's like you're wearing a wearable and you're getting all the things that a wearable can share with you. And out of those, you're trying to construct an algorithmic art. So with those as input data, you're trying to construct algorithmic art which will be there. And what you want really is that when they are more, I mean, they're acting truthfully, let's assume, you can actually also recreate a lot of things that happen to you bodily while you're truthfully acting. So hopefully you're able to capture that. And when there is an intense situation, it actually, the algorithmic art becomes more intense. So you're always following what is their suffering. You could have just showed the numbers, but that makes it interesting. There is actually an artist called Rafik Anadol, Refik Anadol, brilliant guy. He does these very big installations and algorithmic art installations and MoMA and so on, and which is all data being represented as some data. So now he's working with natural data, and he has made a large nature model, and now he's working with that data. So he uses humongous power compute, and he's talking about nature, he uses compute, but ironically, but very interesting stuff that he has. So maybe 1/1,000,000th of that is what I wanted to recreate for this, but we didn't get time for that. So those are the things which are typically going on. But I feel that for Sugandh Sadke, I said that the motion capture was there, and there was, because I wanted the thinking to happen elsewhere, and the movement to happen elsewhere, and the speech to happen elsewhere, like in the robot. So I didn't want a person doing robotic stuff there, because then I wouldn't be able to achieve that. This could be achieved by a person sitting inside, talking and doing movement, and the motion being captured and talk is different, and so on. And all that coming together like a robot. So I want, conceptually, I want to go close to what the original idea is. So if you're using technology, in my opinion, it should be integral, just like the set. It should be integral to the, is what I like doing. Like everyone, I mean, you can use technology, not, but that's what I try to do. And a few other things that we had in mind were, like say for example, LLM generated prompts which will sort of take your play forward and that kind of stuff. But I think too many people are working on that way. So I didn't want to go in that direction. But like it has to be an integral part of what you're trying to do. That would really, like, the connectedness of things has to be there.
मला विचारायचं होतं, आपण सेट्स बद्दल बोललो, लाईट्स बद्दल, म्युझिक बद्दल विचारायचं. कुठल्याही प्लेमध्ये म्युझिकचा केलेला वापर किंवा अशी काही एक्झाम्पल्स आहेत का की जिथे प्रॉमिनंटली वापर केला गेला, आणि अशी काही एक्झाम्पल जिथे मुद्दामून वापरलं नाही म्युझिक आणि का नव्हतं वापरलं?
उच्चारमध्ये आम्ही म्युझिक वापरलंच नाही, पूर्ण वेळ म्युझिकच नाही, कारण आम्हाला ते रिक्रिएट करायचं होतं की खरं घडत आहे, आणि ते असं घडतं. म्हणजे this is the room, for example. So you're sitting there on a sofa and 2 chairs and the coffee table, and here you have a dining table and 3 chairs. That's all that you have. And here you have a kitchen exit, and there you have exit, sort of door exit entrance. And there is a non-realistic bathroom also which is just created temporarily. So this thing, it felt like you're really a part of that. And then things fly around and you're sitting here and it's about two couples and one of the kids has broken the other kid's teeth, and so their parents have called the other set of parents in terms of like, let's settle this amicably, is the premise. In this, when these things flew, Tanvi, one of the actors, a friend of hers had come, and then later he said that actually I went to the dentist because something flew from there and hit me. I broke my tooth. So it actually happened there. So in such a setting, you don't want to use music because it adds some level of non-real thing. So there is no music. There's only some sounds which happen like phone sound and hair dryer sound. That's all that happens. So such things are there where no music is used. I had used this for Sugan Sadke. Tanmay Bhide was my music director. So I told him that I want tracks from Amitabh Bachchan's movies because his father is that Amitabh Bachchan fan. But I want him to construct music which reminds of that, but goes in a different direction. And that I want because it should sound nice, but it should sound distorted in the sense that it should give that feeling of getting trapped, getting inside, etc. So you have that, say, Aaj Rappat Jaye To Hame Na Uthaye. So it's actually being played when he's talking about his father going inside and dying there. So, but that Aaj Rappat Jaye, it plays in such a way that you think that it is Aaj Rappat Jaye, but it creates a very unsettling place. So that way you can use a theme. What we were going to use for gruesome playground injuries is a track and only parts of it being removed. So there is one single track and it's a multi, say you have a 16 track recording. You're removing some of the tracks as you go on. So eventually what happens is there's only like one part of it which is the hospital heap which is there, which is very sparse and it's just there. And that has been there since the beginning. But you're stripping it down to that only in the end, is what we set out to do. But we didn't do that eventually. Again, because the time that was required. So Tanmay was not getting what he really wanted. I had given this idea, but he said that let's try it for the next thing. So he made other types of things. So that way, sound, Ghanta has brilliant use of sound for one of those things. After the deadline comes, after which you can't speak, they don't actually speak because on the first day itself they don't want to, they're just trying things out. So they have done a lot of thinking about it and they have practiced things a lot. But at that point, they're not ready to waste their words. What he did at Mohit, or Mohit gave that idea, so I should say Mohit, is that they had put a mic on the table and increased its, what do you call it? Not gain, not echo, the other thing that we use. Reverb. Increased its reverb so that every sound was very, very important suddenly. So he just put a glass and like every small sound had so much meaning for some amount of time. I really loved that. That's good use of sound. So such small things can matter a lot. So music, obviously, because music, what happens, in one of my plays called Machine. So Machine is based on In the Penal Colony by Franz Kafka. It's a story, and it talks about justice system in some place wherein there is this officer serving justice using an old equipment which was used to serve justice, but other things are changing. So other people who are in charge have got a person from outside to comment about it, whether this is right or wrong, and they want to get rid of it. But that guy just wants to keep on doing it. So it's a machine which gives justice by carving out the sentence. Sentence is the rule that is broken on the body of that prisoner in various ways, in various beautiful forms, and so on, for 12 hours. So eventually the prisoner loses so much of blood that every prisoner dies. So, but justice is served. Like, the thing is that the experience that the person gets while doing this, the catharsis, is what is more important. The person dies is okay, it's happening because there is so much of blood. But if that doesn't happen, that person won't get that experience. So it's like that. So I had a couple of guys from college who were like enthusiastic music guys. So they said, we'll do the music, etc. And they got this type of tracks. I said, this is the first thing that you induce. And music, the problem with music is that actually you are trying to model the arousal and valence using audio video, multimodal modeling. And we found that audio supersedes everything. It's very predictable, in other words, in predicting emotion, because it's running in the background and it still keeps on affecting us. We can't pinpoint, just like we can pinpoint visuals, but it's always happening and affecting us. So in order for us to notice the music, it has to be something different than what you would normally do. So I said, I want really happy music here while that is done. Because he's telling, हे सगळं होतं त्याच्या अंगावरती ते कार होतं आणि वगैरे असं सांगतात. So there were these orchestral pieces of really nice orchestra which goes to crescendo, etc. Because so they said, how can we use this music? They said, like, really happy. So I said, yeah, that's what. Let's try this. And then it worked really well. And the contrast plays with you, right? Like, it's not expected. So it plays with you in terms of exploring what the meaning is. Just like those the CCTVs. It asks the audience a question that why are CCTVs being used? And then they get answers themselves sometimes. So something like that happens when you, while doing music, steer away from what would be the first choice. That's what I normally try to do. I steer away from the choice that people would normally come up with, that you definitely want to do for music, because music has a lot of emotional content. It can just play in the background and do its thing, and you won't even notice it is there, but it will do its thing. So it has to be thought about.
If there are no further questions, then I would like to thank Niranjan on behalf of Kala for such a wonderful experience. I can just imagine how much more he has that he can share. But for lack of time, we couldn't go through everything. But it was such an insightful discussion. So we are going to give you a Kala hat as the memory of
So I must say that I was really overwhelmed with all the love, affection, interest, and excitement that I have seen in the last few days. And thanks so much for that. And hope you like in this
Yeah, no,
Yes,
it's
yes.
great.
what I shared.
And we are looking forward to more scripts from you.
Yeah.
That's what.
And
that's
possible
what we see.
Workshops,
Yeah,
yeah.
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 Workshops.
Yeah.
So you consider like
Workshop,
coming
right.
and doing a play here, like directing a play or something?
Yeah, I would consider that.
Yeah. So what we are looking at is having a satellite campus with Lalit Kala Kendra, and Niranjan is a visiting faculty at Lalit Kala Kendra. So once that idea is put into practice, then certainly we would take the opportunity. Thank you.
Like very attentive audience. First thing. And if you want to try out any of these things, feel free to contact me. And if you want certain techniques or just feel free. We can discuss and.
मला एक प्रश्न
हो.
होता हे नाटकं कुठे अशी बघायला मिळेल?
बघायला काही आहेत.
नाही नाही ते झालं
बघायला तशी आहेत, पण म्हणजे परत तेच होतं की बघताना तो हा एक्सपिरियन्स येतो नाही.
करेक्ट
अजिबात.
लाईव्हचं
नुसतं असं दिसू शकेल
आणि आता ही
ना.
गोष्टी झाली ते आता कुठे झाली की आता जर वेगवेगळे युनिव्हर्सिटी
वेगवेगळे,
किंवा अशी आहेत का
इथे
तर
झाली
आता
आहे.
मी नाही याचा ऑडियन्स पण आता नीच असेल ना.
तसं म्हणलं तर विषय उच्चारला आता कोणी नव्हते आता रॅन्डम लोक येतात.
तर ही
Normally असं-
कळणं
हो हो
ही नाटकं कळणं इज ऑल्सो नॉट फॉर जनरल पब्लिक असं मला वाटलं
Right.
की एवढे सगळे त्यातली टेक्नॉलॉजी वापरून नक्की ते सीसीटीव्हीचा कसं आहे
कसं
तर
आहे.
ते
नाही. पण मी एक शाही पेरेदारचं बघितलं की जनरली लोकांना त्याचा काही प्रॉब्लेम नाही असं त्याचा तसा नाही विचार करत ते.
ते जनरल
ते बघतात आणि त्यांना ते आवडतं पण की त्यांना ते होतं हे चांगलं वाटतं की अरे ते मस्त होतं सीसीटीव्ही आहे. ते असं नाही बघत की काय सीसीटीव्ही होते मग मला नाही बघायचं असं नाही करत. They also try to sort of incorporate even if they don't have a lot of viewing experience. तसं म्हटलं. आणि it's a story being told. So if they resonate with the story being told, they like it. असं बघितलं in general. काही काही खूप हेवी असतात नाटकं आणि त्यांना तो निश होतो ऑडियन्स आणि तसं व्हायलाही पाहिजे असं मला वाटतं की कारण जर लिहितानाच माणूस असं लिहितोय की जे ऍक्सेसिबलच नाही तर कसं म्हणा. पण असं सुगंध सडके वगैरे टाईप नाटक आहे ते सगळ्यांना कळतं आणि वेगवेगळ्या ठिकाणच्या लोकांना पण कळतं. हिंदीत आहे हे वेगळी गोष्ट आहे पण तो प्रॉब्लेम आणि ते जे होतंय सगळं त्याशी सगळे लोक रिलेट करू शकतात. उच्छादमध्ये बरेच लोक रिलेट करू शकतात उच्छादमध्ये जे काय घडतंय त्याच्याशी. सो देर आर सर्टन प्लेज विच रेझोनेट विच हॅव द पोटेन्शियल टू and you should do that in front of more people असं मला वाटतं.
Yeah, but if there is discussion with the playwright or the director after the play, then it gives you
Some amount of पण म्हणजे तरी फक्त गोष्टीच्या ह्याच्यावरती लोक कसे करतात त्याच्यावरती लोक एंगेज होऊ शकतात. हो, हो.
जसे विचारायचे आता साधारण याचे किती प्रयोग
होतात. म्हणजे काही काही माझ्याकडे आधी शो रनर चांगले नव्हते म्हणजे की असं होतं की आपल्याला करायचे शो पण जे रन करायचे ते मलाच येऊन सगळं विचारायचे आणि मला कंटाळा येतो ऍडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव्ह गोष्टी करायला कंटाळा येतो. तर तसे नसल्यामुळे आमचे 5 शोज वगैरे असे व्हायचे आधीचे यांचे. पण नंतरचे काहींचे उच्चातचा 50वा आहे आता बिकॉज द शो रनर आर पॉवरफुल. म्हणजे अनुपम हा खूप चांगलं शो रनिंग करू शकतो. दो इज डिरेक्टर अँड ही इज अ क्रिएटिव्ह पर्सन क्रिएटिव्ह डिरेक्टर पण म्हणतो. ही कॅन रन शोज. तसे लोक एखादा माणूस तसंच असण्याची गरज नाही की जो म्हणेल की मला चालवायचं आहे आणि मी आता बाकीच्या लोकांना हे करतो. तसं मी नाही आहे म्हणजे की हा 5 शोज तर 5 शोज. पण आता ऍक्टिंग जास्त केल्यानंतर मला आता लक्षात येतं की यू जस्ट नीड दोज 25 शोज. ॲज अन ऍक्टर यू जस्ट नीड शोज.
आणि आता हे जे ऍक्टर सध्या आता ते म्हणजे स्टुडंट्स आहेत ललित कला केंद्र असे आहेत का प्रोफेशनल म्हणजे
प्रोफेशनल म्हणजे आता सुब्रत आणि ओंकार प्रोफेशनल ऍक्टर आहेत. आता उच्चारचे मी सोडून बाकीचे तिकडे आहेत ते प्रोफेशनल ऍक्टर. ते तिघही म्हणजे ऍक्टिंग हे पूर्ण प्रोफेशन पूर्ण वेळ आहे त्यांचं. सायली अजून हे पण करते वेडिंग प्लॅनिंग करते पण नाही ती ऍक्टर म्हणूनच आहे.
म्हणजे की नाटक स्पेसिफिकली ललित कला केंद्राच्या स्टुडंटसाठी कुठली
नाही,
होती असं काही
नाही.
नाही.
ललित कला तर फक्त शिकवतो. ललित कलाचं बाकीचं माझं
नाही,
तसं नाही.
अच्छा.
ललित कलाला मी शिकवतो कारण त्यांना प्रॅक्टिकल गोष्टी बऱ्याच मिळत नाही असं मला वाटतंय की त्यांचं हे चांगलं आहे, भरपूर आहे. अभ्यासक्रम भरपूर आहे, पण असं की आता स्क्रिप्ट आलं तर आता मी काय करायचं ह्याबद्दल ह्याचं मला टेन्शन विरहित कधी करता येईल. ह्या स्टेजला जायला त्यांना प्रॅक्टिकल गोष्टी द्यायला लागतात, तर मी तो प्रयत्न करतो त्यांना की म्हणजे मला असं वाटतं की तिथे ते पाहिजे, तर मी ते करण्याचा प्रयत्न जास्त करतो. सो तशी मी मॉड्यूल्स घेतो त्यांची, तशा टाईपची घेतो म्हणजे मला डायरेक्ट काम चालू करता आलं पाहिजे. सो कटिंग डाऊन ऑन ही कन्स्ट्रेंट्स आपण
राहायला बोलायचं की त्याचा एक फार सुंदर थॉट आहे की क्रिएटिव्हिटी अंडर मोस्ट कंटेंट सिच्युएशन. तिथे क्रिएटिव्हिटीचा जो आउटपुट मिळतो तर
मी काल आपण तसं म्हटलं की अनुराधा कपूर NSDच्या ज्या आहेत त्यांचा असा एक एक्सरसाइज असतो की 3x3x3 म्हणतात, म्हणजे 3x3 दिस अमाउंट ऑफ स्पेस 3 feet by 3 feet 3 minutes you have to present the whole play without any words. Now let's say you have a play, you have a thing, every actor gets this as an exercise. So you think about it. It does not have to be done right away. People take time and they come up with something which is such a concentrated representation of the play that you are bound to use something from that in your play. Some element. For example, there's one thing where that guy used sand, a lot of sand for that particular play. And then they used a lot of sand in the whole thing, etc. So there can be very powerful metaphors that come out of this and so on. And this is a constraint. And because it's a constraint, you are being very creative about it. Like the adjectives that we discuss for the characters. If there are only 3, you're not thinking about so many things. What you're doing is instead you're putting certain constraints on your thinking. And within that, you're quickly trying out. Moving ahead, if it is not working, I'll move to the next set. If it is working, I'll still move to the next set, try out something more, it might work better. And this keeps on sort of happening. So you want to quickly try out, and that typically is a constraint. You have to set some boundaries, try certain things out, otherwise, analysis paralysis are called. So you just keep on analyzing everything, nothing comes to you, and whether there is nothing, one thing that I also tell actors, like say for example, the Kala Kendra, that being fearless is what you need. What is that fear? Is the fear of expectation from an actor. See the fear. It's a play. It's there are rehearsals. Every rehearsal is like a play, in a way. There is always something that is going to work and something that is not going to work. So you just have to account for this art being imperfect. There is no perfection. If you are seeking perfection, it's not going to be frozen like a movie. It's always going to keep on changing. The next time you do a show, because even if you're doing one show, the show can happen another time. It will change, and you might have failed, but you may not fail this time in certain things. So there is no real fear that you should have of anything, and that's why actorचे प्रॉब्लेम बाजूला सारा, त्याला मागे बसू दे, कॅरेक्टरला सॉल्व्ह करू द्या प्रॉब्लेम. हे जे आहे, it really works well because it gets rid of all your tensions. It works really well for actors actually. After Sugandh Sadke, Mahesh Khandare, who was playing Sugandh Sadke, is a Lalit Kala actor, graduate. So after we did our process, we had things like, there's something called practical aesthetics. Practical aesthetics is David Mamet, William Macy. So they have come up with it. And I like to use that at times. It's very simple. There's a scene, two actors. You want something from the other actor, the other character wants something from you. How you will get it, there is a strategy to it. How you will interact is moment to moment. And there is one more thing that he adds called as if. And as if is very interesting. Is like what in your life, what imaginary circumstances in your life will give you the same kind of similar adjectives, similar stakes, and similar say strategies that you follow. Once you get that right, you can get the character right, the interaction to be sort of tension free. Because you know काय जळतंय हे मला कळतं का कॅरेक्टरचं कळतं का म्हणजे मला कळतं का मी माणूस जो आहे मला कळतं का आय एम प्लेइंग अ सिरियल किलर हाऊ डू आय डू अ सिरियल कधी डास बसतो आणि मला खूप मारायची इच्छा होते डासाला असं जर समजा झालं ॲट दॅट पॉईंट वॉट एव्हर आय एम डुईंग इज प्रॉब्ली वॉट आय वॉन्ट टू यूज देअर त्याचं काय जळतं हे मला कळायला पाहिजे बट ॲट द सेम टाइम यू शुड नॉट ब्रिंग इट देअर मी सो बट आय नीड टू नो वॉट द कॅरेक्टर इज गोइंग थ्रू कारण त्याचं काय जळतं इज द राईट आय नीड टू बी अवेअर ऑफ दॅट सो
मी जेव्हा कॅरेक्टर प्ले करते सो वॉट आय थिंक द कॅरेक्टर इज वर्सेस वॉट द डिरेक्टर और समबडी एल्स थिंक्स वॉट द कॅरेक्टर इज सो ते डिस्कशन होतं तेव्हा समटाइम्स फॉर मी इट गेट्स कन्फ्युजिंग की अरे मला कॅरेक्टर असं वाटतंय किंवा थ्रूआउट ते कॅरेक्टर असं वागत आलंय यु नो तर आता त्याला वेगळं वाटतंय तर मग ऍज अ ऍक्टर कसं चेंज करायचं का म्हणजे काय करायचं अशा वेळेला
ऍक्टरला एक तर फ्लेक्झिबिलिटी ही पाहिजे की लगेच चेंज करता यायला की जर डिरेक्टर असं म्हणतोय आय जस्ट चेंज आय ट्राय इट आउट क्विकली आय ट्राय टू सी व्हॉट इज द आउटपुट क्विकली आय मूव ऑन टू द नेक्स्ट ऑप्शन इफ रिक्वायर्ड ऑर जस्ट फॉर द सेम हे करून बघता आलं पाहिजे आणि कधी कधी जे कॅरेक्टर चॉईसेस जे असतात ना सो फॉर एक्झाम्पल देयर इज समथिंग कॉल्ड सायकोलॉजिकल जेस्चर मायकेल चेकॉव सायकोलॉजिकल जेस्चर सो व्हॉट मायकेल चेकॉव डिड हू वॉज अ स्टुडंट ऑफ स्टॅनिस्लॉव्स्की ही सेड की स्टॅनिस्लॉव्स्कीचं जे इट्स ऑल इमोशनल मेमरी अँड इट्स जस्ट टू मच इन्स्टेड ऑफ दॅट आय नीड समथिंग which does not stress me as an actor. I don't need to carry that later. So he came up with a physical way of doing things, wherein out of the objective that you have, the character has, and out of a prototype of the character. Say for example, you are playing a king, but the king would be victim. You are playing a beggar, but the beggar would be king. द्यायचं द्या म्हणायचं काय द्या ना सर. Could be a king. King could be a victim, and so on. So there's a prototype to a character, which is not the character itself. That prototype makes an action which kind of shows its objective in the play. For example, I tell you to give an example. A rebel. So it's a full-bodied action which has a beginning, middle, and end. And then what I do is that. हे केलंय ना आता मी माय बॉडी हॅज लर्न इट नाव आय एम गोइंग टू डू इट बट विदाउट डुईंग द ॲक्शन सो राईट नाव आय एम डुईंग इट बट विदाउट डुईंग दॅट ॲक्शन इट्स चेंजिंग द न्यूट्रल ऑफ माय कॅरेक्टर नाव इट्स अ ॲनिमल आता ह्याने माझं न्यूट्रल बदलला पूर्णपणे वेगळा झाला न्यूट्रल झाला आणि हा वर्सेस हा जो होता मगाचा the body is doing that inside. So this is also another truth that I'm just taking the truth and keeping it with me all the time. I'm not going to part with it. आणि हा जो रेबलचा आहे वर्सेस ॲनिमलचा जो आहे विक्टिमचा एखादा असू शकेल की तेच मी बोलतोय, फक्त आतनं जे होतं ते असं होतं. तुम्ही असे असे बदलू शकतो ते. So you can change the way the character behaves so quickly if you know the right techniques sometimes. And this is one of the techniques which really some people really find it very liberating. And just one gesture that they take, which is going on inside, it becomes your second nature for that time. And it gives you a consistent energy to the character and a consistency to the portrait. ते बाहेर आतबाहेर होतच नाही. सो आणि टेक्निक्सचं पण असं आहे की बहुतेक जी टेक्निक्स आहेत ना, दे वर डेव्हलप्ड बाय पीपल who thought a lot about it, who experimented with it, but they also had to make money in the sense survive, professionally do something about it. So they made it into courses. So the courses are like 2-year courses and so on. Meisner 2 वर्षाचा neighborhood players मध्ये course, Chekhov there are 2-year courses and so on. But the actual core technique is quite succinct. It's a very specific idea. You should get to that idea and you should be able to do that. And if you have a Swiss Army knife of all these techniques, many techniques which you have tried, you find that these 3 you don't want to deal with, but this one really works for you every time, and then it becomes a natural part of what you do. So ह्या करता पण being exposed to techniques and trying them out and finding out what your like proclivity is in general, हे थोडंसं करायला लागतं.
आता तुम्ही टेक्निक्स वगैरे म्हणताय, तर मला तेच विचार करत होते की तुम्ही 2 कॅरेक्टर्सचा प्ले म्हणाला, 90 मिनिट्सचा प्ले फुल ब्लोन दोघंही बोलतात, तर त्यांना प्रॉम्प्ट नाही काही नाही, आणि ते कसं लक्षात ठेवतात? आर देयर सम टेक्निक्स टू रिमेंबर डायलॉग्स अँड ऑल?
माझं खूप चांगलं नाहीये पाठांतर करून चांगलं,
ते माझं तर खूपच खराब आहे.
हो, पण ते आपल्याला वाटतं खूप खराब आहे, बिकॉज आपल्या 2 मेमरीज असतात, एक जी शॉर्ट टर्म मेमरी असते आणि एक कमिट करणारी एक लॉंग टर्म मेमरी असते. आता आम्ही 3 महिन्यांनी उच्चात करायला घेतलं, परत आमचं इट्स कमिटेड टू द लॉंग टर्म मेमरी. तो जो मधला प्रवास आहे तो आपण करतच नाही, की शॉर्ट टर्म टू लॉंग टर्म मेमरीला जाण्याकरता ते तेवढा वेळ करायला लागतं. सो जसे पाढे आपण पाठ करतो लहानपणी, टेबल्स, they just get committed to long-term memory or certain type of there's something like the national anthem, which is repetitive. So you just do it by rote without emotion. Tuck, 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 tuck. It gets committed to long-term memory at some point in time. That point has to be attained. Till then, there is that struggle that you feel that no, I'm not getting it. But it's just human beings. Like, we will have a short-term memory, we'll have a long-term memory. It needs to be committed to the long-term memory. Then it can store a lot of stuff. आपल्याला वाटतं त्यापेक्षा खूप जास्त आपण पाठ करूया.
तुमचे वर्कशॉप्स वगैरे तुम्ही घेणार आहात का?
हे प्रॅक्टिकल ट्रूथ इथे नाही घेणार आहे. आता मी इथे तात्पुरता चुकून घेतोय.
आपण पकडलंय त्याला.
असं नाही, आय एम व्हेरी हॅपी टू डू दिस. It's more of sharing, but in a workshop it is more structured, and you would probably just do one of these things a day, in a day. So adjectives वरतीच, आम्ही मध्ये adjectives वरती 5 दिवस काम, because it needs that time. You need time for certain things. काम करायला पाहिजे. म्हणून, but what I find here is that people here can actually read and watch and try it. आणि बऱ्याचशाच गोष्टी स्वतः पण करता येतात. मेनी पीपल इन थिएटर बॅक देअर, दे आर नॉट गुड एट रीडिंग अँड ट्राइंग, नॉट गुड एट रीडिंग इन जनरल. दे हार्डली रीड एनिथिंग. सो सेल्फ स्टडी हे नाही करतात त्यांना, अँड दे आर सिव्हिअरली, दे हॅव सिव्हिअर प्रॉब्लेम विथ रिस्पेक्ट टू सेल्फ स्टडी. दे ऑलवेज हॅव टू डू सम सॉर्ट ऑफ, कोणीतरी शिकवायला पाहिजे असं. So that's why it becomes hard for an actor. That the instructions might be very generalized, but what you need to do is experiment with yourself. That's the tougher part. but like people here are good at like maybe reading and trying it out. असं मला वाटतं. So that really helps. That doing and trying out things yourself also can do things. Like just take a book and read. And many of these books are available even on things like Diction.
So one thing I found is, for me, something that may work for others, like logical flow of why somebody is saying a certain thing. So if you remember very coarse points probably, then you go into the details you have to wrote.
Right.
But I think that logical flow, remembering a very coarse flow helps it.
Yes.
माझ्यासाठी कधी वाक्य मुव्हिंग लिंक असतं.
Right.
विंगेट उभारल्यानंतर आठवत पण नाही पुढे घेऊन बोलायचं.
So all these things count. Like all these things are our mechanisms of acquiring things and keeping them. So whatever is important we keep eventually. But all these things take a part. So different people sort of swear by different techniques. But what I have found is that all these things eventually play a part. That some amount of rote, some amount of repetition, some amount of muscle memory. की इथे अरे मी हे वाक्य इथे असताना घेतो हे आठवतच लोकांना. Some amount of familiarity with the other person also. Familiarity in the sense की त्या माणसाकडनं जे वाक्य येतं ते काही लोक कसं हे करतात ते असं आलं. Listening to the other person.
Can you connect that word to your sentence?
Your sentence. So which word was connected to my sentence? So I get, as you said, logic. So the logic works in that way also. की हे झाल्यानंतर तोपर्यंत मी आज जातो जेव्हा तेव्हा आय हॅव नो आयडिया की आता काय बोलायचं. पहिलं पण वाक्य आठवत नसतं की आता माहिती नाही. But that's where you are the subconscious actor helps, as I said. We have done it, so there is no problem that is going to happen. But I'm going in as a character. So why am I going? I should know. Not what I'm going to talk.
I think तुझे ते म्हणलास की तू actor to character तुझं transition 3 ते 5 सेकंदात करतोस rather than some of us like working throughout the week while we are working मुझे ये करना है ये वो and then that was very effective way of going into the character and coming out.
मला practical problems I like to deal with practical struggles that actors have. आणि actors mainly असं मला वाटतं. तर त्यामध्ये one of the problems is concentration. One of the biggest problems that people have is concentration. And these days you find severe lack of concentration. People cannot concentrate at all. Concentration is probably the single most important quality that this thing has. And one of the aspects of concentration is being able to take out everything else and only focus on the stuff which is important. Say Arjun Ban वगैरे that thing. So हे पण एक example देतो की hunter आहे तर तो वाघाला tranquilizer मारणार आहे. एक वाघ तिथे खूप सुटला आहे and the hunter is just sitting with the gun, sitting and looking at if there is any movement and sees some movement. ह्यानी जे आपलं लक्ष कॉन्सन्ट्रेट होतं ना, just imagine you being that. It concentrates all your attention to one thing, but at the same time, without moving a lot, without making a lot of noise, you want to take the gun, and you want to take the gun, and again aim, and do this. ह्याच्यात आपण काय करतोय? एक खूप आयसोलेटेड हे आहे. We are transferring this isolation to another thing, and now using it. So मी असं काही एक्सपेरिमेंट करत होतो की आपल्याकडे असं काही करता येईल का? 5 सेकंदातच झालं पाहिजे कॉन्सन्ट्रेशन. तुम्ही किती ओम लावून बसलात आधी, आज जाताना कोणीतरी काहीतरी बोललं, युअर कॉन्सन्ट्रेशन गोज. इट्स नॉर्मल. द वर्ल्ड इज नॉट कंट्रोल्ड बाय यू. द वर्ल्ड विल क्रिएट lapses of concentration. When the world creates that, you need to be back in 5 seconds. That's what you work on. You don't work on the 30-minute concentration. ओम लावून बसले 30 मिनिट लगेच जाते तुमचं कॉन्सन्ट्रेशन. आणि मग मला काय म्हणजे लोकांना विदाउट टेक्निक दिस हॅपन्स. टिपिकली व्हॉट हॅपन्स इज थिंग्स आर नॉट रिपीटेबल अँड देन यू ब्लेम इट ऑन अदर थिंग्स. इथे कॉन्सन्ट्रेशन नाही झालं, इथे नेमकं माझं हे झालं वगैरे वगैरे. सो यू आर सिटिंग अँड नाव यू आर लाईक ऑल इन दॅट थिंग अँड यू आर सिटिंग देअर thinking of the character circumstances, etc. for the last 30 minutes, and I don't want to be seen, etc. I work with actors, some of the actors are like that. And when that happens, and someone comes, "Atta cha gena dekho." And then you blame it on that person. Yeah, I'm sitting here, and then why is this person walking in and saying that? And you're suddenly blaming it on, that is your lack of technique. You need to be concentrating on your acting as a craft, because that is what you are there to do. हे काय हे इन्सिडेंटल आहे, तो माणूस आला तर त्यांनी काय चुकीचं, खरं नाही काय चुकीचं. But people get, this is a distraction. You have to deal with the distraction. It's your job to deal with the distraction.
आणि नॉट नेसेसरी इन्सर्ट चहावालाच येईल ना, म्हणजे लाईटच घ्यायचा आहे,
हो.
त्या प्रॉप इकडेच ठेवायचा आहे,
इकडेच
अशा
ठेवायचा.
काही भानवाल्याच्या गोष्टी
भान,
असतात.
हो. So भान is where you trust the actor in you, and let it feel. That's the thing.
पण मग मला एक क्वेश्चन आहे, काही टेक्निक असतो आता की
हो.
अशी टेक्निक सांगितलीस त्याची वगैरे, तर काही कन्व्हिक्शन्स बिल्ड व्हायला ना थोडा वेळ लागतो, त्यामुळे लागतो जो लागतो त्याला काय नाही
अगदी बरोबर, अगदी
करू
बरोबर.
त्याला ते 5 तर तिथं कसं करायचं, त्याला काही अशी टेक्निक इमोशनल ट्रिगर किंवा काही असं काही.
सो मी एक हे करतो की म्हणजे ह्या करता मी असं केलं होतं की इफ यू वॉन्ट टू एंगेज द ब्रेन into something that is very specific in the moment activity. For example, counting these lines. Just start counting the lines. There is no end point, there is nothing. You start counting the lines. तुम्हाला तिसरी लाइन काउंट करताना लक्षात येतं की actually we are just doing that and nothing else. हे जे आहे ना, now you have to transfer this to a character circumstance, any kind of circumstance. And you start thinking of that. What you're doing is calibrating your concentration. When you do this, you know when you're concentrated and when you're not. So you want to calibrate your concentration. And the moment you have calibrated your concentration, just start thinking about character circumstances. And here. Now I calibrated this is there, I know, this is concentration, I'm already looking at the this thing, now I have to take this and go back. हे जे होत आहे ना, so take this and go back, ही जी जी आहे, that's what you want to do with the character circumstances. So now you're in, why are you in is, you are representing the character, not the character over it. You're never the character, you're different than the character. You're representing the character. So start thinking about what my circumstances are. एखादा circumstance जो आहे तो पण हे करतो, एखादी गोष्ट आतली आहे त्याच्याबद्दल मी विचार करतो की आज कप असा ठेवलाय माझ्या ह्याच्यात, म्हणजे माझ्या ह्याच्यात सोफ्यावर जे असणार गाणे काही असेल. I start thinking of that, but before that I have to calibrate the concentration. The calibration can happen in a variety of ways. Some people can do it. समजा काही लोकांचं म्युझिकल हे असेल तर ह्या गाण्याचं नोटेशन काय हे मी जर चालू केलं तर लगेच तिसऱ्या नोटला माझं कॉन्सन्ट्रेशन होतं. फॉर सम पीपल इट माइट बी अ सम 138 into 39. 9/8 हे चालू केल्यानंतर आपल्याला लक्षात येतं की आय एम देअर. ॲट दिस टाइम यू ट्राय टू गेट दॅट इन. हे करणं जे आहे ते सम पीपल जस्ट लुक ॲट the breathing that is happening, की श्वास आता येतोय, आता आत जातोय, आता इथनं जातोय आणि असा येतोय. त्याकरता आपण आत जांभळा श्वास आहे, बाहेर येणारा गुलाबी वगैरे हे करता येऊ शकतं. बट वेन यू आर ट्रॅकिंग समथिंग इन द मोमेंट, युअर ब्रेन इज एंगेज इन द मोमेंट. डिटेल्स ह्याच्यामध्ये ब्रेनला काम करायला, ढोबळमान हे खूप लगेच येतं. इमॅजिन अ टेंट, यू हॅव इमॅजिन ऑलरेडी. इमॅजिन दॅट रोप which is white and red, intertwined white and red rope. See that it is starting from the top, and now it is coming down the roof, and now it is going across one of the ropes which is holding the tent, and now it is coming down from there, and then it is circling and going down. हे जेव्हा आपण करायला लागतो छोटं त्यात प्रत्येक पॉइंटला we are concentrating. Imagine that you are sitting on the roller coaster. The roller coaster is going down. Now it is going down, now it is going down, now it is coming up, now it is. हे जेव्हा होतं तेव्हा ॲट एव्हरी पॉईंट वी आर इन. सो तो एव्हरी पॉईंटला इन असणं, बाकीचं मला काही नाही सुचत, एकच गोष्ट दिसते, अशा वेळेला हे आणणं आहे हे गरजेचं. आणि ते करून बघायला लागतं बरेचदा. द गुड थिंग इज दॅट यू कॅन डू इट एनिवेअर. ते ऍडजेक्टिव्ह मग अशी म्हणालो ना की माझं आतलं थिंकिंग कसं बदलायचं की यामुळे लोक मला हे म्हणतील. यू कॅन सिम्युलेट इट एनिवेअर, एनी अंडर एनी कंडिशन. मे बी तुम्हाला थोडा वेळ झोप येणं म्हणू शकते, पण तुम्ही बाजूला बसलाय तरी, आणि आता मी समजा अँग्री यंग मॅन, समजा अँग्री आहे, त्यात मला काय म्हणताय, प्रत्येक जी गोष्ट येते त्याच्याबद्दल काहीतरी अशा गोष्टीचा विचार करते ह्यांनी मला काय त्रास होतो, आणि आय जस्ट बिकम अँग्री. देअरफॉर पीपल थिंक दॅट आय एम अँग्री, बट माय वर्ल्ड व्ह्यू इज दॅट एव्हरीथिंग इज मेकिंग मी अँग्री. म्हणजे ह्याच्यात काय असं आहे की ज्याचा त्रास होतोय मला, की लगेच गोष्ट दिसते, लगेच गोष्ट दिसते, लगेच गोष्ट दिसते, असं व्हायला लागतं. दिस इज जस्ट सिम्युलेशन दॅट आय एम कॅरिंग ऑन. सो आय एम सिम्युलेटिंग माय इनर स्टेट, सो टू से. आणि ती मी करत राहतो, म्हणजे माझी भरपूर त्याच्याकरता, त्या कॅरेक्टरकरता प्रॅक्टिस होते. इट्स नॉट ओनली द टेक्स्ट, इट्स युअर बिईंग देअर एज दॅट.
रायटर डायरेक्टर असल्यामुळे कोणाची दुसऱ्याची स्क्रिप्ट डायरेक्ट करताना रायटर इंटरफेअर करतो.
असेच रायटर घेतो मी याचं. आय हॅव नो चॉईस. आय टेक अप स्क्रिप्ट विच आय रिअली लाईक टिपिकली. कधी एखाद्या वेळेला असं होऊ शकतं की नाहीच आवडलं पण करायला लागतंय, असं होऊ शकतं, पण आय जस्ट ट्राय टू अवॉइड इट. इट्स बाउंड टू हॅपन इफ आय डोंट लाईक द स्क्रिप्ट. Just going to say that I want that. So, पण एक अगदी म्हणजे ललित वगैरे मध्ये कधी कधी स्क्रिप्ट असतात की कसं काय लिहिलंय, चांगला माहितीचा माणूस आहे असं काय लिहिलंय, असं होतं, पण करायचंच आहे ते. सो तिथे फॉर अ सीन वर्क or something, तिथे मग मी थोडं मग ऍक्टरला सांगतो हे थोडं नॅचरलाइज कर, हे एवढे सगळे शब्द वापरलेत आणि हे वापरलेत, तसं नको, याचा आशय बघ काय तुझ्या शब्दात तो व्यक्त कर, पॅराफ्रेज यूज इट, अशा काही गोष्टी करतो. हे सोपं त्यातली पळवाट आहे, जर अशा ठिकाणी चालते ती. पण काय घेऊनच करायचं तर मग यू डू अ प्ले विच यू आर कन्व्हिन्स्ड अबाउट, यू रिअली लाईक दॅट टेक्स्ट.
All right.
Thank you.